It's not for me.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you all for being here this evening. Thank you for joining us for our Nampa City Council meeting. We do have a tradition here, and that is that we open in prayer. And I am so thankful to have Pastor Keith Wagner here from Grace Bible Church. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for opening us in prayer. So let's stand. And the pledge when we're done. Thank you.
Father, I thank you for the opportunity to be at this special meeting that happens here for the good of our city. And God, I'm so thankful for Mayor Kling. I'm thankful for each city council person, people who have given themselves to make a difference in what I believe is the greatest city in America. And so I just pray for your peace, for your direction, for your clarity in this meeting tonight. There are going to be decisions made tonight that make a difference for our city. And I just pray for your will to be done as it has been over these decades. So God, for what you're going to do in this time tonight, we thank you. And God, we look forward to what you're going to continue to do to make Nampa the great city that it is. We love you. We ask for your blessing on each of our council members, our city officials, and we pray this in Jesus' strong name. Amen. Would you join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Pastor Keith, thank you so much. I want to say Pastor Keith also is on our Healthy Impact Nampa, leading our families, Healthy Families Initiative. Thank you for that. Thank you for your service. Okay, roll call.
Rodriguez.
Here.
Jingula. Here. Bills.
Here.
Reynolds.
Here.
Everfield.
Here.
Griffin. 5 present, 1 absent.
Are there any proposed amendments to the agenda that anyone is requesting or that you're aware of? I'm not aware of any, and so I would stand for a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and then I would ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda as provided.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, all in favor? Excuse me. Any opposed? Okay. We do not have any agency or commission reports. We do have staff communications this evening. And Jeff Barnes, let's start with you. Good evening, Jeff.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. So we have an exciting presentation tonight. So we want to congratulate Lindsay Dunbar. So she works for our Water and Irrigation Department. I can tell you a little bit about her. She started here and oversaw our administration department, pretty much did a little bit of everything. She was promoted and took over part of our utilities. It used to be meter readers. Now there's a whole technology out there where we manage 35,000 connections. She was promoted to business manager along the way. She ran all the finances, and now we just kept adding things, and she kept being successful at what she did. So John Spencer is our engineering manager down there, and I know that Lindsay's just like a right-hand person down there and knows about all of that. So we wanted to honor her tonight. We have the Idaho Rural Water Association apprenticeship program. She just completed this. You're going to hear a little bit more about that. So I'd like to recognize, so Idaho Rural Water Association folks are right here in the blue shirts, and Shelley is the CEO of that, I believe. So they're here, and they're going to come up. And actually, it's Jake Slater, the apprenticeship specialist, going to come up and give the accommodations to Lindsay. So I invite you up, Jake.
Good evening. I'm Jake Slater, the Apprenticeship Specialist for Idaho Rural Water Association, and I have the honor to present the Class 2 Apprenticeship Certificate to Lindsay Dunbar for completing the drinking water course. If she could come on up here, along with her mentor, Ira. Lindsay completed 288 hours of online technical classroom learning, as well as 4,000 hours of on-the-job training, all while having a full-time job as the assistant superintendent. So, Lindsay, thank you so much. I have a challenge coin for you here, and a couple of hats for both of y'all. So. Lindsay has also completed the utility management course. It is a very intensive course, and we also have that for you as well. Carrie Gilstrap's going to be taking some photos of us, and I was hoping that we would be able to get a picture of all of us with y'all up here, if that's all right. So, cool?
Come on up. Yes, everybody up. Come on, John. And let's center a little bit. So we're going to scoot this way. There we go. You don't want to? Go ahead. I just want to say I'm proud of you. If you want to say something, go for it.
Yeah, I can say thank you. Thank you for everybody that supported me while I was doing this. It was quite the journey, 2 years. It was a lot of work, but I definitely had amazing mentors and a lot of help from John and Jeff and Ira throughout this. It was a pretty awesome experience, and I would recommend anybody do it if they can.
Yeah, good for you. That's a lot of work.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Rodney? Thank you, Jeff. Very special.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Rodney Ashby, Planning and Zoning Director, for the record. We had 3 items that I need to report back on. The first one is just a 1-year extension for the final plat for Astaire. This is a commercial development. This is at off of Midland Boulevard near the northwest corner of Cherry and Midland, and that was approved for for a 1-year extension. The next one was a conditional use permit for an non-enclosed storage for nursery and outdoor items near the southeast corner of Sunny Lane and North Elijah Drive, and that was approved by Planning and Zoning Commission. And then the last one was a replat, a preliminary replat of the Magnolia Estates subdivision. And essentially that was adjusting the number of lots slightly, and they included a parcel that wasn't included before, so they expanded their parcel and added a few lots. So it wasn't significantly different than the first one. And that one was approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission. That's all I have.
Council, do you have any questions for Rodney? Thank you, Rodney. Appreciate it. Okay, well, that concludes our staff communications. We have one new business item tonight, and that new business item is an action item, which is to consider a levy override options or levy override options to address city deferred maintenance and budget shortfalls at the Fort Idaho Center or other needs as identified. I did, in visiting with our legal counsel, Preston, he mentioned that he does have just a quick overview. Go ahead.
Mayor, I'd be happy to address this. So for council's benefit, if you want, I do have a basic slide deck kind of going over the fundamentals, kind of core building blocks for levy overrides, kind of get you into that discussion mode. And this would be a little more of a bullet point breakdown from the memo that's in your packet that you've had a chance to review. If you would like that, I'd be happy to present it. Otherwise, you can proceed according with you and Mayor. But that is an option. I could present a basic slide deck, and it would be visible here for the public.
Thank you. I wanted to just defer to the council. Would you like to take 5 minutes and provide that? Yes. I've got a yes from Natalie. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Let me get the sharing here. I did coordinate in advance with IT, so we'll be on the same page here. All right, looks like it's up. Again, these are basic building blocks, if you will. Not a deep dive into the weeds, but can set the tone for this new business item. A quick overview of what we'll cover here in a few minutes for council and the public. We'll go over the publishing, the discussion that will happen tonight, what determinations you'll be making, and the vote you'll be making, and the next steps following a vote tonight. So as a starting point for your discussion on this item, I think a good starting point is what are the specific budget needs? You first start with the levy override, identifying what those might be. The reason being, Idaho code requires you to specify the purpose. So it can't just be an open-ended thing. It has to be for a specific purpose. So identifying first what those specific budget needs are, and then narrowing it down to the scope and purpose of the levy is vital, because that will be binding and controlling depending on what the outcome of tonight's vote is. And the exact dollar amount, and I've met with our CFO on this many times leading up to this, and the dollar amount you want to have is a starting point, and then you can back into a levy rate from there. And you will have a decision and determination whether it will be temporary or a permanent ballot measure for a levy override, temporary being 2 years, and more on the permanent nature in a minute. A few considerations as you dive into this discussion. Think of the levy rate as a byproduct, and I will not pretend to be a CFO on TV. I'll defer to Doug on this point. But think of it, oftentimes a levy rate is looked at as the starting point. That is a byproduct. And Doug, I'll let you, if needs be, go into the details on how that's calculated. For your understanding tonight, it's important to know that there's kind of 3 tiers here and voting thresholds. And it depends on where the levy rate or that byproduct lands. If it lands, depending on how much money you need for city budget shortfalls, the output is equal to or greater than 0.004, you will be into the super majority voter threshold if this were to proceed. Now, the Idaho Code provides a lower threshold of 60%, and that is if you are less than 0.004 levy rate. Now, these are permanent. And something that we learned in investigating this further, if there's a levy rate set, that is off authority for you to collect that amount. It's not a mandate that you have to collect up to that number year after year. And that's why the scope of what you put into a levy is important. There may be a case where something in that scope falls off or the need is addressed. And therefore, the levy authority may be here. I'm putting my hands up for those who are listening online. But maybe you only collect halfway up. And there also is a lower voting threshold, as you see here, of a simple majority, 50% plus 1 vote. And that is for a 2-year levy override. Overarching all this, there is a statutory cap of 0.009. Prior to the property value boom we've seen in the last 5 years or so, some cities and counties were hitting up on that level. But now that property values have gone up, the levy has sunk. And that's why a lot of cities are in this situation where we can even talk about a levy override. So just some procedural elements to consider. You're going to have a vote whether to move forward with the levy ballot measure, what type, permanent, temporary, that's up for you. What amount, that again is up to you. What scope, that is up to you. After that, legal and city clerk's office will work together in drafting those resolutions, and we will confirm that the calculations are correct, working with the state tax commission, and there's mandatory requirements we'll make sure are in place. And the dance steps to this, so to speak, there'll be 2 resolutions, which we'll work on preparing depending on the outcome of tonight. And there are a lot of required disclosures that have to be met to a T. And we have a deadline of August 29th at 5 o'clock, which was in your packets that you're aware of, hence tonight's discussion topic. So right here, this is the final slide. So I don't want to bore everybody to death, but these are the steps that you would follow tonight as one option, I think, as you march through this methodically, starting with what the budget areas would be, figuring out what that dollar amount is, and then whether it be temporary, permanent nature to meet those needs. And then we would want to make sure we back in that we're not butting up against a statutory threshold that we're exceeding. And depending on the outcome, if it proceeds, we'll be ready to draft resolutions and move forward. So with that, I'd stand for any questions. I know there'll be more discussion. But Mary, I'll turn it to you.
If we did move forward, I would anticipate a second meeting to approve the resolutions. Would that be correct?
Mayor? Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
And we have talked that we have a special meeting time slot later this week. We could do that at. But yes, it would require a second meeting with the final polished product of those resolutions put before you to review and approve.
Or if we're not ready by Thursday. I mean, this is a big if. I just
Yes.
want to understand the dates. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. So I would like to hear from the council. I will say that in the packet online, before we go, in the packet online, there is an executive summary, and there's also a document that shows what those values would be if there were a levy override. Doug, would you like to take just a minute and talk through what you put on this one sheet that shows that if, for example, if we had $1 million levy override, I mean, I can read it off the paper if you would like, or, okay, thank you.
I have it up if I can get, it's on one screen. Get it on the others?
And
Now it's off that one. Okay, well, we're on most of the screens. So let me bump this up a little bit.
thank you, and you, to the extent, yeah, thank you so much for making it bigger. Appreciate that.
One more shot. There we go. Okay. So the way the mechanics works is if we were to select a $1 million override, we can calculate that per $100,000 of taxable home value, that would be $5.99. If you have taxable value of $450,000, so that's after you take off the exemption or the deduction, that would be $26.96 per year if that were approved at $1 million. And so essentially, it's $5.99 per $1 million of borrowing for each $100,000. So if I go up to $2 million, the cost is $11.98, which is $5.99 twice, and then $53.61. We can go down to that and say if it were $10 million, and these are just calculations, it would be $59.90 or per year for a $450,000 house, $269.55. That's just straight math all the way down. I generated this and then reviewed it with Canyon County to make sure the calculations were correct, and these are directionally correct. They might change a small amount depending on the levy rates, but that's what you would end up with, Mayor. Anything along those scales is an option to choose from.
Thank you.
Oh, now, I can say that just according to the comment from legal about the maximum amount to .004, To get to .004, I don't think we would, but that's about $28 million. So,
Thank you. So, Councilman Bills, I think you have a comment or question, and I realize I may need to back up and say, because we didn't really talk about the why we're talking about this, but go ahead and go forward.
So I need to clarify, is it a one-year levy? Is it set by council how many years, or how the parameters of the,
Well, if you do a 2-year levy, it requires a 50% vote plus one. If you do a permanent levy, it requires, which would be the value that we would be in, that would be a 60% vote threshold, and that would be a permanent levy. Now, I think what I heard you say was we could say we're only going to put that levy on for 10 years, or is that correct?
Mayor, yes, you could put on a permanent levy, and it could be in that lower threshold. And if the purpose of that levy is satisfied, then effectively that levy collection expires. There's no need to collect it anymore. Statute requires that whatever scope you put on this levy, whatever purposes, if they're ongoing year after year, you would continue to collect as needed. Our CFO, Doug Racine, would send over an L2 every year with the amount we're seeking to collect. If the item or the scope is no longer needed, then it effectively falls off and expires. So in theory, it could be it could be a 10-year horizon perhaps, and not for in perpetuity. It just depends on what the scope is and if those needs continue year after year. And again, it's an authority to collect it, not a mandate. And that would be a year-to-year determination in the budget process.
and then the costs, because we did a bond last year request, and that was turned down. So the cost to run a levy, do we have any idea what that cost is?
Well, we did reach out, I don't see Amy at the moment, but we did reach out to Meridian to get a feel because they're doing a levy override to see what they were doing. And Amy, do you want to answer? I don't think they shared a dollar amount that they were doing. I'm sorry, I'm totally putting you on the spot.
Yeah, thank you. From my recollection, so I'm sorry I didn't prepare, they were not doing a mailer. They were including an insert in their utility bill, but not doing a direct mailer. They have a website and then some earned media from different news sources.
So the answer to that question is, if we were to do it, it would depend on the council and the level of outreach that you want us to do. To do a single mailing, do you remember off the top of your head what that is? It's expensive.
It's $10,000, I believe, just for the postage, and that's at a bulk rate. And then you're talking about, printing the postcards.
Thank you.
Mayor
Thank-
Klein?
Yes.
Yeah, I have a question. So either Doug or Justin, is this levy, is it only for residential and not for business, or does it include business?
Mayor, if I might,
Please.
this rate applies equally to both residential and commercial, the same valuation. So for $100,000 valuation of commercial property, the same rate as residential.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions, comments?
Mayor?
Yes.
Amy, is the Nampa School District, are they on their cycle for a levy this fall as well?
I am not familiar with I'm not sure.
I will say that I did receive a message from a trustee that said they were thinking of running a levy in November, and I'm trying to think who else had received communication. Clay, would you like to speak to that?
Sure. Yes, the school district's planning on running. Perfect. The school district is planning on running a levy in November.
And I think they have reached out asking if we would consider not.
I didn't have that conversation.
Okay.
It was just more of a question. They do have a meeting tonight, so I think more information will be coming.
Okay, thank
Mayor?
you. Yes.
Jeff Kirkman did reach out to me and did request that, and he did confirm that they are trying to put it on and that their meeting is tonight.
Okay. Thank you. So an answer to your question.
Thank you.
So, this is a difficult one because actually no one wants to raise taxes. I don't want to. So, but we are struggling, and the only reason this even came up, it's come up for really one reason, and it has to do with how do we afford to deal with the deficits at the Fort Idaho Center? It's just very straightforward. How do we do that? The reason why it's come up now, because I've been asked that question, why didn't this come up sooner? The reason it didn't come up sooner was because what we have is over the last, since 2021, and it's now 25, the last 4 years, we have a cumulative effect. And in the last several months, it was brought to our attention that it was not only House Bill 389, it was also House Bill 673, and we saw the true full dollar amount. I don't remember what month that was, but it was a few months ago. We had a council, special council workshop, sat down with Canyon County at the time, appreciated Rick Hogaboam bringing this information forward, and Steve Onifray bringing it forward and confirming that our budget shortfall, where we would have been without those two bills, was we are $5.8 million less in our budget. The goal with growth is that, and this is what our intent has been, that growth funds growth. It's really sad with the change in that legislation to see that growth is no longer funding growth. And with that $5.8 million, we're looking at a budget as we look to the coming years that's really, really tight. So where we are, as a council, I think I can speak as a whole, is we're faced with the issue of what do you do with the treasured asset, property that we love. You know what? It's a wonderful thing that the Fort Idaho Center and that horse park is sitting here in Nampa and it's ours. I love that. But then you say, okay, now how do we afford this? Because of the budget, where the budget's gone. And it's not an easy fix. It's not an easy fix, and we're looking at where we are financially as a city in the years to come. So it's caused us to pause and say, what do we do? So that really is the question that's before us tonight. And that's why the whole Fort Idaho Center conveyance, the potential conveyance, that and higher utilization, that the College of Western Idaho has an opportunity to utilize the property at a higher level than we can as a city. That said, tonight we're talking about a financial decision. What do we do? How do we fund this ongoing? So that's really what our discussion is about tonight. I don't know where we want to go. I do defer to the council. Yes, Councilman Reynolds.
Madam Mayor. So studied this a lot and thought about, what the best option is here to get some funds for the Fort Idaho Center. And the real problem that I see is that we would have to do a 2-year levy to get and a high dollar amount, because $2 million is not going to help us. We need $10 million at the minimum, and probably, more like 15 million to get us out of the gate, and then we'd have to run another levy to catch up. We need to have enough funding to do one project and be able to start that project and complete it, and $2 or $3 million does not get us there. So, and that doesn't even include our operating expenses on the venue. So if we did a 2-year levy at $15 million, I look at that, and probably the average household in Nampa, $300 to $350 in taxes going up per year. That's significant. And I just don't feel like that's the right way to go, to burden our taxpayers with this additional load when we have the other options about with the Fort Idaho Center. So I just throwing that out there for thought.
Thank you. Any other thoughts?
Mayor?
Yes.
It's going to be really hard, at least for me, to put something of this magnitude on the ballot. When we did our transportation bond, every time we do a city survey, transportation, public safety are our number 2 concerns. And if that doesn't even pass, then what would the likelihood of something like this passing? To me, I just don't see it working out. But I'm with Councilman Reynolds in the fact that if we just do a small amount, then we're going to all the trouble and the time to do it, and we're just kicking the can down the road. We're not really putting ourselves in a position long-term to keep this, so then it's just a matter of time till we're back to this and we're at square one again. So I'm having a hard time with this. I would never want to put that type of a tax increase on anyone, myself included. I'm also a taxpayer. I also don't want that on mine, but I could never do that for the public. So I'm really struggling with that. But again, we're still in the same position where how do we fund this and how do we keep it and where do we go from here? So those are my thoughts right now.
Yes.
To follow up, so for my math, I see that minimum is, if we do a 3 million amount, I think it's a minimum of 5 years, and then it could be re-voted on after 5 years again in order to get back in order
Mayor?
for the 5-year period.
Not to interject, but just to guide the comment, there won't be a vote that's required in 5 years. Only if it's a temporary vote would you come back every 2 years. If it is a permanent one, it would stay in perpetuity, but it'd be up to city budget decisions whether to keep collecting that. Does that make sense? So it gives you the ability and authority for many years to collect. And whether you do is maybe a year-to-year determination, but there wouldn't be any revote unless it was a 2-year temporary levy override. I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, so clarification, maybe I misunderstood that we can't set the term, it's either 2-year or permanent.
Yeah, so the term is set like that, but in practice, the permanent one can act like a temporary in the sense that if the scope of what you're looking for is no longer needed, maybe use this example for at Idaho Center, the deferred maintenance is adequately addressed to the city's needs in X number of years. The city can say, we'll scale back on what is being collected come tax revenue time, because we don't think that's a need right now. It's just the authority to collect it, not a mandate to collect it, and that's a budget operations decision.
Okay, so based on that, my error then in the beginning, thinking something could be tailored. So 2-year levy, I think we're at a minimum of 5 to 7 million then that we would need to be asking for. And the reason I say it is because I think the need is so great, and it's been identified that the need and the lack of maintenance that we've been able to do on the facility is only going to grow, and it's only going to be more acute. And so if we said 2 million for 2 years, I feel like that's helpful, but it's not, it's only going to just do a quick Band-Aid on a few items. It's really not going to upgrade the facility, nor is it going to prepare to get the facility further forward. I mean, we need to keep in mind that this is a 25, since the city's had it, roughly plus or minus 25 years, and it's been minimal in terms of upgrades and maintenance. It's been just the bare minimum. So each year that goes by, each year that we don't tackle it, only gets more expensive to come forward and do what needs to be done. The cost of just inflation in the last 3 to 5 years has been tremendous in terms of fixing up buildings and repair of buildings, et cetera. So if we're not talking in the 5 to 7 million minimum, which is a very hefty levy from the standpoint of, and the example is 450,000. There's plenty of real estate that's worth 700,000 or 800,000 in our community. There's plenty of real estate as far as the residential side that's even above that. And then if you want to talk commercial, so those who own office buildings, and they may be worth 400,000 to 800,000, they're going to find themselves being asked to write an additional check for 300 to 500, possibly as much as 700 to 900 each year for the 2 years. So it's going to affect the community's pocketbook, this levy. There's no question. For me, the issue is that a week ago, we heard a great deal of comments that said don't transfer it, keep it, and there's been subsequent emails to, I believe, all of us, continue to push that. But yet there's no solution to the maintenance problems. And there's no solution as far as future forward. And so the typical is to kick the can down the road and try to figure it out later. And so that's the purpose of the levy. Twofold, the levy then gives the property owners, those who are able to vote in Nampa, a say as to, yes, I'm willing to write a check and for the next 2 years to help get the Fort Idaho Center moving in a better direction. And so that's really the community's decision. And that's the benefit of doing a levy override, is that, okay, we understand that. Now, there's others who are going to be saying, no, the city should just be figuring it out. So then one solution is we suspend and we would come back, even if we approve the budget tonight, and we would put a freeze on hiring. And we'd put a freeze on several other factors that have been included in the budget in order to transfer the money to the Fort Idaho Center. There's been a lot of discussion during our budget sessions for the last 4 to 5 months, each time it comes up, is a no desire for taking foregone. And I believe that's on our agenda yet tonight as part of the budget moving forward. And Doug, I think you're going to be covering that. Is that right? So that has been a bone of contention for a few council members that having possibly promised or viewpoint that you never go back and take foregone. But what I haven't heard from the public, I've heard a lot of complaints, gotten a lot of emails like every other counselor. I haven't heard the solution yet. I haven't heard how are we fixing a 15 to 20 million deficit on the facility. What's our game plan? And so currently that sits with us, council, to navigate a direction that is palatable to the public, but it's also responsible for maintaining the facility. At what point do we let the roof leak? At what point do we let other things continue to go? And usually nobody wants taxes, but candidly, when there's a real issue beyond our right now pothole and problem type issues, then the public will say, why didn't leadership take care of this? Why didn't leadership move and do something about these issues? And at least that's been my experience of observation the last 50 years of watching what goes on in the public, locally and at the state level. So I don't have a problem putting on a levy and let the voters vote, but I think it's got to be a respectful amount that's going to take care of a good portion of the initial issues. At the same time, if the public says no, then that's a direction for council as well. Plus, that's kind of where I'm at on the issue. But I'm not optimistic the levy's going to pass. Last year, our bond issue would have been a great help, but it also had undefinition. This was going to have pretty direct definition as to what needs to be done. So there's my long-winded thoughts.
I will say, though, that if you don't mind me saying so, I think that the transportation bond was very specific, what it was funding. The dollar amount was there. I mean, just look to Amy because she had to do all that work. But it was very specific about what it was funding, but it didn't pass, and you're correct on that.
It had the 5 categories, but It was tough to boil down. There was a couple areas that we were asking for a great deal of dollars without
Right.
specifics of exactly what projects were going to get funded. So I felt like that left some ambiguity that the public was unsure about. That's
Okay.
just my read after the fact, not ahead of time.
Okay.
Mayor Kling?
Yes.
Thank you. So I look at it this way, is whenever we need to handle a problem, the solution from this side is that you folks pay it. And that's what we're trying to stay away from. You support the entire city, not just the Fort Idaho Center. And that's the crutch of the whole deal. That's the only solution that I see before us right now. But I know that when other city departments have an issue, we raise the fees to make ends meet. And I don't see that as the solution here. And I think that's probably one idea we should look at, maybe. The list of priorities for me is not necessarily fixing the Fort Idaho Center, because we've got more issues at hand. Public safety, infrastructure, streets, all that. It's more important to me. And even though the Fort Idaho Center does bring in a great number of people to Nampa and helps our economy, and I'm stuck with that, folks, I really am. But I worry about encroaching on our taxpayers to continue, and that's difficult to me. The other thing is that there has been an auditorium district, and there's been some confusion as to whether we can use that or not. I think that's up to the board, whether they'll give us that, not us, but give that money to the Fort Idaho Center or CWI. And I haven't got a definitive answer yet, because we don't know. So is the override levy the answer? I don't know that it is, but you folks will decide that. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes.
follow up to Councilman Rodriguez. When you said raise the fees, I just, what does that mean?
User fees.
So fees on the ticket sales.
Fees on the tickets, fees on everything else that's out there. Water, alcohol, events, I guess. Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Sebastian, Councilman Griffin.
Just a few of my thoughts. First off, I would not be supportive of a vote for any kind of permanent levy. As you all know, I'm of the position that even with foregone, if the money's available, I get concerned that it's just going to continually get taken. So if we permanently take or set an amount annually, whether we're meeting our needs or not, I don't want the option for that door to be open. Not saying that anybody would have bad will or malice or anything like that. I just would prefer, if we even move forward, that it would be a temporary override for 2 years. Councilman Bills mentioned solutions. One of the ones that we have previously discussed and haven't looked deeper into at this point, I think we should ask the Fort Idaho Center immediately on ticket sales to increase a user fee of $3 to $5. If we're having over 300,000 tickets sold a year, that's a quick amount of revenue to be able to generate. I know that it might have a market impact, and that's for Andrew Luther and that team to decide and figure through. But I think that's a very real option. I know in our discussions with him, he said that is something that we can do if we continue to keep our ownership. So I think that that's one stone that has been left unturned. So we should be looking into that. And I think those are my quick thoughts on the issue.
If I could follow up, so in touching bases with Andrew, we currently have a $2 per ticket fee, and it generates about $300,000 a year that goes to the bottom line, because there are different things that come off of that, the taxes and different things. So we currently have that. We would have to increase, but if we increased another $2, it may be still another $300,000 to the bottom line, to where you have a $4 fee per ticket. What we have to be careful of is that we're competing in the market. If our price is too high, they're not even going to come. So then you don't even have the event. So, and that's the challenge that we're facing today, is that when we have another amphitheater in the market, it's going to impact our bottom line. So we could do a fee, we could increase, put another $2 on a ticket. I don't know how well that sets with the promoters. And then when you have a competition in the market, they may just not come to our venue, they'll go someplace else. So, but let's say we do add another $2 a ticket and we get another $300,000 a year. It could be that that's just offsetting a deficit in the future. And so what we've got to be realistic on is that, and again, the difference is, it used to be over these last 20 years, we were not in the financial position that we're in today. If you've been watching our budgets, Doug has been talking to us for the last several years. Once that House bill hit, we've been watching it, and we've been really careful. Doug, I believe it was not this year, but this last year, we did a 5% holdback in operations. Is that correct?
We cut operational costs by 4.4%.
Okay, and then this year, we asked everybody to stay flat.
And they did. The net budget overall increased 0.9%, the total budget.
Okay. I will say that on the transportation side, I believe our new hires that we have in the budget are mostly water and transportation. Can you remind me, do you know off the top of your head, and I can't remember right off the top of my head, how many Gen Gov new positions other than police?
I think there were 5 or 6 other than police. It may have been 5. I don't recall.
And what would we'll have to look at that, because that would be something that would go, but.
Yeah, it wasn't many. I can tell you in just a moment.
Thank you, I'll let you find it. So I guess the thought is we could.
25.
But those were streets, water.
Some of that
So
was infrastructure, so I couldn't find a breakout between.
that's what we need to find, Gen Gov versus not. Just to be clear, just so the public knows, we cannot take enterprise funds and put them in Gen Gov. We can't take the funds from water or transportation and put them into the Fort Idaho Center. It's just not, legally, we can't do that. So the police positions, we could, if we so chose, to do that. But I don't think that's what our public wants. I think they want our police to be funded. And so looking at the actual new positions that we're funding, we switched some positions, but as far as brand-new positions, I think we had 0 in the mayor's office. We have 1 attorney.
So we added, in general government, we added 12.37 new positions.
Where are those?
8
Doug?
of those were in police. So
Okay.
only 4 were outside of the police, and 2 of those others were in legal. So 2 in legal, and then 2 others scattered around the general government. So very minimal. We had, IT actually went down, your office went down with the shift to legal, so I can't remember where that, but there was just 4 others that were across the entirety of the city added outside police.
So I guess it gives us the perspective. Go ahead.
So GIS was adding several.
Yes, that they added 2. I think that's the other place. You're correct. That's in general gov. It ends up getting charged out to the various departments, but it's recorded as a general gov increase.
Okay, so that would take us above the
Yep.
12.
It's included in the 12.
The GIS. So of 25, 13 are under enterprise funds. Those departments.
Yeah.
12 are.
Yeah, it's 28 actually with when we added the 3 new and the 4 gone. It's 28.0 in total increase.
The 3 new that was added at
Correct.
budget approval time.
Right. So you take out that 12, then outside of general gov, you have 16 more. And most of that's in fact, virtually all of that's in public works. And all of those in public works were intended to save money by bringing construction and support in-house rather than doing third-party contracts outside the city.
And that foregone that was voted on was dedicated to police.
100%.
Yeah.
Mayor?
Yes. Go ahead.
To which?
To Sebastian, please.
Okay, I apologize again, but belaboring the point that we're discussing regarding the levy, I go back to Andrew and his team are the best in the industry. I think we've heard public comments saying management's doing a poor job. We need a better contractor. I have and will continue to counter that completely. Andrew's done an exceptional job. OVG has been exceptional. And they're very, very data driven, I think, on where they set their prices. I just look to, for example, Post Malone and Jelly Roll's concert in Boise State. The starting ticket amount was $260. I don't know very many concerts where our starting amount are at that point, but the desire to attend concerts throughout the summer is there. If we're able to, and I just keep talking about potential solutions, I'm not saying this is the silver bullet and we all can throw our hands up and say, oh my gosh, the problem's solved. But rather than the potential of raising property taxes $500 per household per year for the next 2 years, maybe we should try and tap this solution of, and it could be case by case. I'm not saying, okay, it's got to be $5 for every event moving forward. Some people don't want to go see Blue's Clues, so maybe we might just have to do $1 or $2 on that of an increase. But if we have Willie Nelson coming in, maybe tack on $8. And that might seem extreme. They're going to be able to see the ticket revenues. And it's not something where, oh, it's got to be fair. They drop their ticket prices when sales need to happen. So if they see, okay, our sales are not happening, let's cut down the user fee to $6 a ticket rather than $8. And just going where the market is allowing them to go and potentially generating those revenues, whether we have a shortfall year, because either way, money needs to get collected if we're going to maintain this facility. Now, is it going to crawl us out of 20 to 25 million potential deferred maintenance? Maybe not, but $300,000, $600,000, $900,000 annually of an increase in ticket sales, I think is significant, especially considering what we're trying to discuss right now of levying across Nampa.
The only thing I would say, and Sebastian, I really appreciate your idea. The only concern I would have with that is that when you can go down the road to, if it's a small amphitheater event, they'll have a new amphitheater to go to. If it's a large event, Boise State's getting ready for that. So if you can go to another venue and not, they're about getting the dollars, right? So we tack on $8 a ticket. They can not tack on $8 a ticket, get the show, and they walk away with more money. Because that competition is going to be in the market. Just having been in that business in my prior life, it's a tough world when you get into the market and this bottom line. And even if we increase by, let's say we get another 500,000 with ticket fees coming in, to be realistic, what does that do to our deferred maintenance? Somehow we've got several $1 million that we've got to figure out how to fix the parking lot, right? It is what it is. And we can debate about how much it is and how much it's going to cost. We just have to figure out how to do that. And there have been a lot of ideas, and I appreciate the creative ideas on events, but the reality is that they don't produce the kind of income that we need to offset the deficit. It just is what it is.
I have a clarifying question, if I could, Mayor.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm asking you genuinely out of the expert perspective that you've had, aren't they going, and I look at this as a direct fee on the consumer. If Willie Nelson comes in and says, hey, I want my revenues, I'm set my tickets at 180, wouldn't he set that amount at any venue that he's going to be at? Now, I understand the perspective. He might want to go to the new, shiny, better. But isn't the ticket price going to be set 180 there? It's set 180 at the amphitheater. Just us as a facility tax on at the very end an $8 fee per person that goes directly to our account, not necessarily Willie's. I don't know. That's what I'm trying to understand.
It's a really,
Yeah,
it's a really good question. And I wish Andrew were here to answer that, and I'm sorry he is not in town. But I think the answer is no, because the deals that get done between the promoters and the buildings they're complex. They're shared revenue deals. There's a lot that goes into those deals, and it's not quite that simple. So
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry.
Mayor?
Yes. Okay, yes. Councilman Haverfield?
It's, I'm not sure if the public has been made aware of the OVG offer terms. Is that something that can be shared this evening or not?
I don't have it in front of me. We would have to, we'd have to look at the numbers, because at the time, when they gave us an initial offer, it was like, no way. And then they came back with a different idea, and that's what led us here, was because, no, it didn't make financial sense.
So that was going to be my question to you. It's been stated by yourself and a couple of the council members that it's not a good deal. And I was just wondering, from your perspective, what makes it not a good deal?
It had to do with the financial risk, taking the revenue and the profit out of the amphitheater, which is the revenue one. The arena would stay with us, and that isn't the revenue-making piece of the venue. And so there was a greater risk for us meeting our bottom line when we were facing a deficit, because what really was putting us over the top were those amphitheater shows, because we have done really well on the amphitheater shows in the last couple of years. They've done great. And so that has brought it to that place of profitability.
So again, my question, what made it not a good deal? It never was negotiated. So that's where I thought that we still had an opportunity to go back to OVG, talk through the offer, look at the benefit of it, see if it did make sense. I have never had that conversation, or at least I haven't been privy to it, to know why it wasn't a good deal. And going forward, from my perspective, again, you know, I've been trying to come up with other ideas to help provide a funding source. This was just one of the options with the land lease to OVG, with the $10 million improvement to the amphitheater, which would then cement Live Nation here and, you know, the larger venues, and then having potentially more of a ticket per diem share. We talked to Andrew about that, and he said that's all negotiable, along with the land lease value. So that's just one component. Obviously, we're talking about the auditorium district, the potential for them. Again, it's been a maybe, not buckets and pails or whatever, but yeah, boilers and rooftops, they can help, but it still has to be approved, and then we would need a joint powers agreement to move forward on that. So that was just another source. And so that's where, you know, you start looking at other potential means of coming up with value. And I know the horse park, they had even talked about if we can help work with them to keep their lines from freezing during the winter months, that they could be providing venues inside of the, you know, the sports arena, and that would be beds or heads in the beds as far as for the hotels during the winter months when they maybe not would normally be there. So again, I'm just moving down a path of trying to be, again, when we go back 12 years and we were, there was a different paradigm. We never expected the Fort Idaho Center to be in the black. It was just meant to be one of those venues like every other one that's going to run in the red. Once that paradigm changed, within 8 years, we had it to the point where it's ready to be in the black, and has been for the last few years. If the paradigm is such that we want to be profitable going forward, we need to be intently doing something to try to do that. So that's where, again, it's been my desire to be a part of an effort to do that, and not put the tax burden back on the citizens. You know, again, if there's a way to do it that's creative, let's look at that, and not just throw our hands up and say, no, you're going to have to get the taxpayer to fund it. So when we looked at the Jacobs report, you know, again, it was, could we trust that? That's the question that was being asked. But then again, from my perspective, I've gotten to the point where I feel like my efforts are just being put aside. No, we need to go this other path. And if that's the desire of the council, then that's the way that the council will go. But I just, I would have a hard time supporting putting it back on the backs of the taxpayers when you look back, when the Idaho Center was built, the revenue that came into the city after sunsetted, so that taxable increment value came in, we should have been at that point putting money in the bank for ongoing operations and maintenance. Every large project that I've ever been involved with, that's the first thing that is done, just to make sure that they're not they don't come up short in 5 years with maintenance and operation costs. So going forward, can we do that? Can we look at a creative way to get them self-sufficient, profitable, put money aside, and do that? I would hope so. That would be my desire to see that happen.
Thank you for your comments, and I agree with you. I will say, so earlier today, I had a conversation, I'll just say, with Nate Shellman. He asked a question and made a comment, and it was a really good one. He said, you're asking the citizens for a solution to a problem they didn't create. He said, government's asking for a solution, government created the problem. And I have to say he was right. I mean, I don't know what else to say, because you're right. In the ideal world, we should have set money aside when we built the venue. It's a great property, great venue, but we didn't take into account the cost and the financial loss that we've been dealing with. We also didn't expect the legislative changes. Regarding the horse park and utilizing the sports arena in the winter for horses, actually it brings in revenue in the winter because they're doing home shows. They're doing a lot of things in there in the wintertime, and they're going to continue to do that. I think that OVG has done an excellent job of increasing the utilization of the facility to make money. Their sponsorship sales, they're knocking it out of the park. That's why we've turned it from a loss into a slight profit. Probably there's two big things that have changed. One is our financial picture over the last couple of years because of the legislature. The other one is the competition in the market and the risk we're in as a city. And it's those two driving together, because I think looking at, and I appreciate your ideas, if you look at the deal with OVG, if they're going to put 8 million or 10 million in, they're going to expect a return. But there has to be a return, and when there's competition in the market, that may not be. So we as a city have to figure out, what are we going to do to absorb the financial losses? If they come back, and right now, when we're profiting maybe a couple $100,000, because I think that the financial document's very confusing when it shows that they netted $1.2 million, but then you take the parks fee out of that, and then you take the incentive fee out of that, maybe that equals about $1 million. Well, it equals $1 million to $1.06 million. And so then maybe you made 200 to 400.
Well,
so we're getting better, but it's still risky.
Very, very, if I could, Mayor, two comments. One, I come from an environment in 20 years at Albertsons where capital investment was the lifeblood, and so you needed that to make the grocery store process work in perpetuity. But the difference with the OVG is that's not deferred maintenance. That's investment in improvement, and it's awesome, it's great, but it doesn't solve the deferred maintenance issue. That's a totally separate funding issue. The second point on the profitability, they haven't improved. When I first got here in 2018, the amount of operations funding we gave them per year was almost $1 million. Now we're down to this year zero, no operational funding. We still budgeted for capital, so great improvement. But if you take out the amount of support we give them, they're still not profitable, especially if you take in the amount of money we put in for the horse park the last 2 years, that $1.6 million. They're not profitable. That will help improve profitability, but right now they have, if you take everything out and just let them stand completely on their own, they're not quite profitable. Much better, yes, but not quite profitable.
Doug, can I ask you, the fund balance for the Ford Idaho Center, is it in an interest-bearing account?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and so if a portion of that, say 500,000, was taken out of the 5 million and then matched with something else, that some other way of creating a revenue stream. So that would be $1 million. And then the Nampa Auditorium District being able to kick in $1+ million, that'd be $2 million a year potentially, and we would still have a pretty good chunk of that fund balance retaining, and then obviously the interest accruing on top of that as it sits there for a year as well. And you're looking at OVG being able to hopefully stay profitable and above profitable as they've increased the venue and as an attraction, and then they're cementing Live Nation at the Ford Idaho Center instead of Caldwell or maybe somewhere else in the valley. That's an anchor in the ground for them. That's an incentive for them. They're improving the venue. It's possibly going to be creating a better revenue out of itself. And then if we're looking at, instead of just $1 per ticket, which is what they offered, maybe 2 or 3, because we talked to Andrew about that. That's, again, I'm just wondering, why is that frowned upon as an offer that might make sense, along with maybe some other things, especially the auditorium district coming forward? That's why people voted for it, was specifically for the Idaho Center and Civic Center. Yeah, if they wanted that, we'd give that to CWI. It's been in the red from the beginning.
I love the topical discussion. It's perfect. But the challenge in the most recent past, when you asked about why don't we set aside money for them, we've never had excess left over at the end of the budget to set aside. By the time, because it's all coming out of general government, when we're trying to struggle with funding all the streets, the parks, because our property taxes go to the general government, primarily public safety. They go to the library, they go to the parks, they go to the airport and the cemetery. When you divide up the money, there's very little left over to save. In fact, we've never had an extra bucket of money to save, to put aside funds for a rainy day. The only way we get possibly extra funds is if, let's say, the sales taxes come in a little better than budget, and they have in a couple of years. In fact, that was how we financed the horse park, was extra sales taxes that came in. Right now, sales taxes are maybe 1% better than budget, so they're not really growing. So it would be the council to choose a priority of what they want to fund. Do they want to fund this or that? And then we reallocate the funds. And I'm more than happy to entertain that discussion of priorities, but we've never had extra to really set aside to give just to an issue like that.
Which is a blessing today. Mayor, one last question, and maybe this is for Preston. Sometimes the devil's in the details. I'm just looking at the executive summary, and something that gave me a pause was the amount of the levy increase should be informed by the deferred maintenance and budget shortfalls at the Ford Idaho Center and other needs of the city. What are the other needs of the city?
That was only in there as a placeholder, because if we discussed, and I will say, I asked him to put that in there, because the other thing that I'm trying to figure out is, how on earth do we handle our West Valley Animal Shelter? Right, so if we're going to do a levy, do you just leave it at that, or I don't know how to deal with that,
Or
because
should we be talking about something other than just the Ford Idaho Center with this
Yeah.
levy?
you know what's difficult? I guess my thought is, none of us want to do a levy increase.
Right.
I don't think. I mean, I don't, because I think about a lot of my neighbors that are on fixed incomes. There are so many people on fixed incomes in Nampa, and you know what? We don't want to do a levy. I don't want to do a levy override. I just can't imagine that. It makes it very, very difficult for our citizens. But we do have a challenge, and we got to figure it out. It's kind of like your personal budget. If you can't make it work, you got to give up. You got to figure out what you're going to let go of, what
I
you're
can
going to
say
do.
personally, when my business was, when the revenues weren't coming in, I made decisions as a business owner not to take a salary myself for almost a year. And that affected me later on, being able to borrow, because the banks would look at me and say, how are you going to be able to afford to pay back your loan? But it kept employees working, it kept the business. We were able to stay above the red line, but it took sacrifice. And sometimes that's what we have to talk about. What sacrifices are we willing to take ourselves? Again, if we're really looking at the citizens of Nampa and the taxpayers and what we're asking of them, if they're willing to raise their taxes, great. But again, this is a hard sell for me. I just see it, especially when we've already said in our budget that we want to take another percent of foregone on top of a 3% increase. That's tough for me, because again, it's just a burden on them, especially the older folks that are aging in place.
Mayor?
Yes.
I think coming back to for me, what I found the focus and the reason that this discussion got brought up is solely because of the conveyance of the Ford Idaho Center. If we're not going to convey, we need to find a way to fund. If we are going to convey, then this conversation would never have happened. And I'm not trying to argue for or against the conveyance right now, but coming back to the point of, I don't know when that vote comes forward. And frankly, after we make a decision today on this, I ask that we bring that decision forward sooner than later. I think we've had our hearings. We've heard the wills of our constituents. I believe the city has done an extremely good job of getting the message out, having the message be heard, sharing all perspectives. It's time to make a decision whether we hit and start checking off point number one. And I think tonight it really is a factor in that. I think for a few council members, whether we decide the levy or not is going to be a decision factor for some of us. And so I think it's time that at least thinking about that. I know right now I'm not in the position to make a motion or support a motion for a levy, period. I temporary or permanent, I'm not going to. So I think we've hashed it out. I think there are still options left unturned. I think even just the report that we received from Jacobs, I can't remember if it was 15 years or 20 years. Either way, that gives us some time to plan. It's not $20 million here and now. We have a $600,000 boiler that needs to be replaced. If we increase our fees temporarily, we can fund the boiler, and then if we continue, we can plan for the next project or issue that needs to come up, and that's part of that 15-year plan. We have a plan in place, and all this takes planning. What has happened is we've had lack of planning, so it's just moving from here and saying, okay, we're going to target this, we're going to target that. Maybe we don't take any more hires next year because we have to focus on our infrastructure. Rather than growing, maybe we should focus on what we need to do now. And I'm belaboring, and I apologize. I frankly am ready for making a motion not to do anything or hearing if another council member has a motion to override.
I would just say, Sebastian, you just made a comment, and I was just thinking, so if we held on positions, I mean, if you think about what our citizens are wanting, we can hold on police positions. We're trying to cut every other position. The only positions are enterprise fund positions that you can't use anyway. So the GIS positions get billed out to the other. So we could hire nobody, but you know what? If you can't run the city, is that the right thing to do? Is to let the city sacrifice? Because we don't have the positions. We did our 5% cut last year. We stayed flat this year. No, in our overall Gen Gov, I said no new positions. We didn't do any other than attorneys. But if we don't do that, I don't know, Preston's looking at me. It's like, I don't know what we'd do because there's work that has to be done. So the question is, we can try to save in some places, but it isn't going to address the issue. And we already looked at travel, and we're continuing. If we weren't already trying to be really good stewards and thought that there was some money out there we could cut, it'd be a whole lot easier. But when we've already been cutting, that's when it gets really hard because I don't know what to cut.
Mayor,
Yes.
We didn't have, in my opinion, we didn't have largesse built into the budget. We didn't have overflowing expenditure. Even when I came in, we were probably very austere. The city, by its nature, attempted to be very conservative in almost everything they did. But the growth is the factor that we've been dealing with, and paying for growth is the challenge. So if you choose you don't want to pay for growth, yes, we can sacrifice. You could, Mayor, Council, you could do anything for a year. You could cut things dramatically for a year, but probably only 1 year. And then you'd have to go back and double down the next year to follow back to recover it. You could cut travel and education to zero. You'd save some money there. You can raise money from the horse park, but you cannot cut your way to prosperity. If you follow me, you can cut, but it's short term and it has its downsides.
Thank you.
Mayor.
Okay, so Councilman Griffin, then Councilwoman. I'm sorry, Natalie. Natalie's been trying to get in here.
Go ahead, Councilwoman.
You're okay. Go ahead.
I frankly would be singing a different tune if this levy was regarding public safety and specifically police. And I think that's where I feel that all of our sentiment might be the same. And I think for the citizens' perspective, if we vote on a levy tonight, they ultimately have the final say come November. And the same be it, if they really care about public safety, give them the final opportunity. That's why I voted no for foregone in July and in workshops, because if the citizens want a tax raise, let's allow them to. And I know we can't put everything on the ballot, and I'm not advocating for that. We each were elected to represent our populations and bring forward and receive the information and then vote. I don't think anybody's going to support a levy for the entertainment centers. Now, I don't think they'll support it for public safety either, but at least we give them the opportunity, like David Bills had said. So I hope if we have another levy discussion, it's regarding police, because I don't want to cut police off at their knees. But we don't have an endless pot of money. We've stated that time and time again. I think we're going to see changes this legislative cycle, but if we don't, we have to look at what do we do? And I've been chirping in everybody's ear, and I know you're all over it, mitigation fees. Whether we're able to or not, other cities are. Maybe we shouldn't be growing right now. Maybe we shouldn't be adding to what's causing all this. What is causing our growing pains? Growth is. Because for every roof that is built right now in Nampa, because of legislative changes, we're going in the hole. And every building permit, every plat approval, it might be helping us in some areas, but we're still, you can't look at it as, okay, it's going to help our tax base, but we're still going in the hole. That's still a loss. We're still in the red. Every time we build a house, we're in the red, not the black. And I'll stop there.
Councilman
Let's come
Griffin,
back to the
but
Fort Idaho Center.
yeah, staying with the Fort Idaho Center, unfortunately, that doesn't touch or address the Fort Idaho Center. It absolutely doesn't. In fact, if we did a stop on growth, we'd even be in a worse place than we are right now. So that's a difficult one. So let's stay focused on the Fort Idaho Center because growth does not impact the Fort Idaho Center.
Mayor.
Yes.
Thank you. Going way back to that increase of fees, we have to remember that that goes into Gen Gov, and I know we kind of talked about it, but those fees go back into the general gov. So we can't necessarily say we're going to increase these fees because, and then it's going to fund X, Y, Z. It goes into that, and then the council here is the one that's going to look at that budget and allocate those funds. If there's another resource that's needed in the city, police, if those funds would have been here in this fiscal year that we just discussed, we wouldn't have had to have take foregone for police. We would have been able to fund them. So it wouldn't go necessarily to the Idaho Center. So we have to be really careful when we're talking about that being a solution because we can't bind councils to use those funds that would come in for that purpose.
Well, just for clarity, I think what you're saying is, are you talking about increasing the fees at the Fort Idaho Center?
Yes.
Okay, so and those funds right now would just be to try to get us out of a deficit, and any positive nature has gone to build that we were trying to hit a $5 million threshold, so if there was some ebb and flow during the year, they had a fund that they could pull from, which was needed in order to, it's their financial model, because they have times where they have money and other times they don't. And so the fees actually currently go to their bottom line. And that's how we've built to where we are today. How would you like?
But you're correct, Mayor, but we fund them from general gov. And they're tied very close together. All the money we fund them comes from general gov. If they got more money in their side and we had to take less from general gov, it means we have a little more lift in general gov to work other places. But my guess is that even if you got those fees to supplement general gov, you'd still need more from general gov because the deferred maintenance is so high. I can't fund it from our current structure, even if you have the extra money from fees. You can stem the tide and pick off a couple of the low-hanging fruit items, but the big items you'll struggle with. And then if the Fort Idaho Center is competing for monies with public safety, then it becomes a very interesting topic with council of how to share limited funds.
The question has been asked about why we don't take the $5 million base that we've been trying to build to and use that for capital. Doug, would you like to answer that question?
Sure. So
it is cash flow.
When COVID hit and kind of the concert, the arena, the events of the entire nation and world kind of decreased, they got down to a point of about maybe $1.3 million. That was barely enough to keep them afloat. Over the past 4 years, they've increased it it got up to a high of $5 million. Now it's down to 3.6 because of operation cost and incentives. So it goes up and comes down. This year is not likely to be quite as profitable as last year, so the funds may not stay at $5 million. But when they sell tickets, concert tickets, they have to put all that money into a prepaid account that they cannot touch. And that's got a lot of money in it right now, probably $5-6 million, but they can't touch it because concerts have a way of getting canceled. And if the concert gets canceled, they have to refund that money back to the ticket purchasers. So that money is inviolate. You can't touch it until the concert takes place. That means you're just living off of whatever value you have in the operations account. And the cost of operating the horse park and the arena and the other sports park there is fairly cost intensive. So $5 million is a nice number, but we don't have it right now. They spent part of it for operations.
Councilman Bill said it's cash flow.
Yeah, it's
It
cash flow.
really is cash flow. And so it's complex. It's easy to look at something and say it's simple. It's not simple. There's a complexity to everything the city does. And we don't expect every citizen to understand every piece of it, and we'll do our best to try to explain it, but it's complex. So with that,
Mayor?
we're way past our time, and Councilman Reynolds is next, and we do need to move on because we're way into our next.
So I was just going to say that we can't fund this on what ifs. We have to have good, solid solutions going forward and solid numbers that actually make sense. And with the levy override, we wouldn't get any funding until January 27. In the meantime, would put us another $2 to $2.5 million down in the hole. And we need a chunk of money to fix big projects. The boiler is one of them. It's the smallest of them, but we have a roof, we have air handlers, we have different things, parking lot that needs to be done. That's about an $8 million chunk. And if we wait until January 27 and puts us that much further in the hole, I just don't feel like that's a good option at all. And I don't feel like this levy override is the right thing for the taxpayers. And so with that, I'm going to make a motion that we deny the levy override to go on the ballot in November.
I'll second that.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Chingula.
Yes.
Bills.
Yes.
Everfield.
Yes.
Griffin.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Councilman Reynolds, thank you for that motion. Obviously, it's unanimous. Everybody agrees, and I fully agree with that we don't need to put a burden on our taxpayers. So we need to continue to have discussions and figure it out.
So Mayor, we haven't noticed it, then I think we've got to return in September and have a discussion about the transfer. Because from my side, I understand there's going to be a lot of folks upset over that idea. We don't want to fund it. We're willing to stay in the deficit. We don't know where the money's coming from. So you invite customers to your door, you have a responsibility to have the restrooms working and be in good order. Your front doors need to be in good order. So from the standpoint of responsibility, I think we've got to come back to the issue in September as to the viability of transferring. The Fort Idaho Center is still in Nampa, it's still right there. But I still believe that we have to visit that discussion.
Mayor Kling.
Thank you for your comments.
I don't really agree with that. Let us find out a solution. Let's move forward and have a community and go from there. And then if that all fails, then we're up against the wall. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Okay, yes.
I would echo what Councilman Bills just stated. I think at least we should mark off whether we're going to go into step one and announce our option to convey, and I'd like to see it early in September as well.
Okay, thank you for those comments. Okay, I think at that, we're ready to move on. So, it's been about an hour and a half. I tell you what, before we go to public hearing, for those of you that are here for public hearing, we'll probably take a break before we start them. But right now, This would be when we do proclamations. We have no proclamations tonight. Public forum time, do we have anyone signed up?
Madam Mayor, we do have one individual signed up.
Okay, so I'd like to give the person that signed up for public forum an opportunity to speak tonight. And who is that?
That is Manuel Herrera.
Thank you. As you come forward, we'll let you state your name again and your address, and thank you for being here tonight.
Good evening, Mayor Kling, council members, and Nampa residents. My name is Manuel Herrera, address 18357 Tree Line Avenue. I'm here to discuss the importance of the Valley Regional Transit funding for our community. I was born in Nampa at the Mercy Medical Center, for those who remember. I'm a longtime Nampa resident and daily VTR rider. I have worked at the cheese factory, Lactalis, for 11 strong years. VTR provides essential transportation for workers, students, seniors, connecting Nampa to Boise and beyond. Reliable transit reduces traffic congestion and supports economic growth. As the council considers the 2026 budget, prioritizing VTR ensures reasonable access to transportation for all Nampians. I know the council faces tough budget decisions as discussed in your July workshop. Libraries, public safety, and wages all matter. But underfunding VTR risks leaving our most vulnerable residents stranded. Investing in expanded routes and better scheduling can boost ridership and support local businesses by bringing workers and customers downtown. Residents deserve a voice in shaping VTR services to meet our growing city's demand. For those watching online, I encourage you to share your views with the council. I ask the council to review VTR's performance metrics, ensuring accountability to taxpayers. Thank you for your time and dedication to our community.
Manuel, thank you. Council, do you have any questions?
Mayor?
Yes.
Manuel, which bus route do you ride?
I often use the 150 and I often use the 42.
And do you normally stay in Nampa and Canyon County when you're riding? Or?
Correct. So the 150 is only Canyon County, and I use it. I start sometimes. The 150 is over by the Target and Costco area, and there's multiple drop-off areas, and so I'm able to access it. I came in on a scooter and rode the VTR today to show my dedication. I'm familiar with Boise. Everyone wants to ride their bikes and have bike lanes. And I know a lot of riders that use VTR.
Thank you.
Mayor Kling.
Question?
Yes.
Manuel, we have been toying with the idea, as we're already backed up against the wall with that as well. You as a constant rider, would it be okay if we increase the fee? And I don't know what amount, but with the principle is increase the fee so the taxpayers all don't have to put in so much. What I'd like your attitude, your.
So I'm aware that I think the city puts in $300,000 a year, but if I were to raise the fee, the user fee, another 50 cents, usually a rider fee is $1.50, but if it's raised to 50 cents or 75 cents or $1, of course we have to pass on the bill to the consumer. But even at a 75-cent increase, there's many that will still use our services.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you so much for taking time
Manuel?
to be here. Whoops, excuse me, Sebastian, he's online. Thank you, Councilman Griffin. Go
You're
ahead.
okay. Just for my own curiosity, Emmanuel, when you ride daily, How many other riders are usually on that bus with you?
I see like 2 or 3. They use, I see sometimes the CWI students, maybe 1 at a time, but there's when I'm on the bus, it's usually full of like 2 or 3 other passengers. So I'm glad to see it's not empty.
Thank you.
Thank you again. We appreciate you taking the time and the effort to get here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, our next speaker is Jill Hallows.
Jill Hallows, 603 West Crimson Loop, Nampa. I'm one of those aging in place, so thank you for understanding. Like right now, this is aging me having to speak. So I think I can speak for a lot of people who are a little frustrated right now because I was led to believe when I voted for the auditorium district that it would offset some of the expenses for the Ford Idaho Center. And I think we have been misled. So I hope that that will be addressed. I agree with Councilman Rodriguez that that needs to be figured out before we move forward with the levy idea or anything else. Another thing that I have heard people say, and I have felt a little bit of this, is that the transfer of the Ford Idaho Center to CWI, it sort of felt like an ultimatum, like either this levy override thing has to work, or we're gonna, take it out of your hands and transfer it over. So just be aware that people are really sensitive to feeling that the increase of taxes would be a punishment because we haven't agreed with you on that. So yeah, the economy and the prices going up. This is really bad timing to be proposing more taxes, especially for us old folks. And I appreciate you letting me speak again, and I appreciate and understand the dilemma that you have. I wouldn't want to be in your seats right now, but I will be very happy to participate any way I can to help all of us together figure this out. Thank you.
Mayor, may I?
Thank you.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes. Jill. Do you want her to sit? Do you have a question or?
No, I just want to respond because you raised a couple of issues, and I don't need to respond to you. If you want to sit, that's fine.
Oh, thank you.
What I think is important, based on council's discussion about the levy and Jill's comments, is to infer there's no way that this city council desires any way to be punitive to the citizens of Nampa. So I want to make sure that it's conveyed, at least from my side, and I believe it's probably most councilors and mayor, if not all. The frustration is we have a facility that's aging, and there's an expectation in the marketplace. If your doors are open, the facility is safe. We have an expectation that the city has a responsibility to take care of the facility and has not been able to do so, therefore, how to walk forward. But nothing is in the mindset, and for the discussion time that's gone on for months, that there's a punitive mindset. We're going to penalize the taxpayers. Most of us could have said there's no desire for a levy, but it was a discussion that needed to take place. And so thank you for participating or listening, etc. My frustration is to invite the public to a facility that is aged And all that we've been doing for the last several years is trying to put a Band-Aid on a broken water line. And you can wrap the tape, you can fill it, the hole is sealed, but it's going to show back up. And so I believe as a community, we need to deal with it. And several have commented, hey, we want to explore ideas. That's great. But so far, I haven't heard anything that is actually a solution short of a transfer. And I know it's not popular, I understand that. But to an entity who has capability to raise funds. Now, this council may not even go forward with that. And folks will be happy about that. But the day that we have a slip and fall, the day that we have problems at that center, the day that the fire department says, oh, you're no longer meeting the requirements for safety, and the show doesn't go on, the cry's going to be, City Council, where were you? Why didn't you solve this issue? How did you let it get to this point? Because those are the questions I'm asking, and I know I'm going off the rails, but I just think it's important for us as a community to come together and start talking about solutions then, rather than just, no, council, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Okay.
I do have a really quick question for Jill,
Okay.
if you don't mind. Jill, question, Jill, can you come back up to the mic really quick?
So unfortunately, we've just lost our meeting, and because this is not a discussion time. We're,
Sorry.
that's okay, because it's not, this is not typically, but because we did, we'll let you make one comment, and then,
It's just really small. Actually, it's a big thing. I don't feel like I have been given all the information I need to come up with solutions. We don't know what's already been thought of, I think we need a sit-down discussion with all the players involved so that they can say what they've already thought of and tried. So I don't know what to come up with because I don't know what you've already thought of so far.
thank you, Jill. Thank you.
Yes,
Okay.
Natalie?
Well, I was just going to ask Jill, because you said that you would be willing to help. So I was just wondering, a week ago, when you said that you were making public comment about not wanting to convey, and so I asked what solutions, you said you didn't have enough time. So I'm wondering if you have had time to think of any solutions between now and then.
I have thought of a whole bunch, but they might be silly solutions because I don't know what's already been thought of. I don't know what's possible. For instance, what if we did ice hockey and ice skating in there? Well, that probably wouldn't work because you have all the equipment to make ice. I mean, I don't know about that kind of stuff, but if we were in a room full of experts who knew the answers to the type of questions we might come up with, it'd be really helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so what,
No, never mind. Let's just move forward.
Madam Mayor,
thank you. Okay, so let's,
our next speaker is Patricia Evans.
and we're not going to have any questions, okay? No questions or comments back because we've kind of gotten out of what we're to be doing tonight, and we've got public hearings coming.
My name is Patty Evans. I live at 3616 East Rolling Green Place, Nampa, Idaho. I've heard some really good suggestions from the council members this evening, but I've also heard a lot of people say, well, no, that won't work, and then we move on to the next thing. We just all found out about this at the end of June, and when I came to the meeting last week, I was coming to say no. I didn't know I was supposed to show up with solutions. I had some solutions, but I didn't get to finish what I had. So I wanted to say about the Jacobson report, I believe that it is overinflated. It is a pie in the sky list of things that need to happen over there to make it pristine and perfect. We don't need that right now. We need it to get to where it is functioning and safe. So I think that probably isn't a $25 million estimate. I think it should closer to $8 to $10 million in maintenance, not the $25 million. I also believe that the parking lot should be at the very bottom of the list. I mean, I've been in venues in major cities where you parked in caliche or dirt parking lots or fields, and nobody blinked an eye. They handed over their $20 and parked their car and walked in and enjoyed the concert or the rodeo or whatever event was going on. I do believe that we have a lot of people saying, well, this and this group says that and this and that. I think that what we need as a city is to have a consultant who specializes in this to come into this facility and say that, and kind of do an audit. Look at what we're spending our money on. Look at, are we running the air conditioning and the heating when nobody's in the building? Are we running the air conditioning and the heating too high or too low? Can we back it up a few degrees? Everybody in here should remember, well, most everybody in here should remember the 70s when we had to do that as an all to save money. We did it in schools and things like that. But I think that we can save this. I really, really do. I like the idea of facility fees on tickets, as long as it's going towards specifically the maintenance. Also, we need to amend the auditorium district. Capital improvements, don't build it unless you can maintain it. And I see a lot of that going on around here on the roundabouts. They're beautiful. I love how quickly we get through them. And the artwork, that's a luxury thing. We did not need the artwork, although I love the Wright B Flyer because that's one of the parks I worked in, was the Dayton Aviation National Historical Park. I have a special place for the Wright brothers. But there's weeds all grown up into the landscaping gravel. So we need to be able to maintain what we have before we build new. I encourage the council to think about that in their future budgets.
Madam Mayor, time.
I still have a few more things because I don't think that we are going to, I knew we wouldn't get the tax levy when we walked in here tonight. Nobody wants to pay more taxes. None of this money is going to come from one spot. You're going to have to piece it together. You're going to have to prioritize the most important things in order to fix it. This facility could be, it is the crown jewel, although a decaying crown of Nampa. And I think that we truly could fix it. Don't give it away because it's got a few broken things that cost a little bit of money compared to the worth of the facility. I encourage you to not come here next month, not to vote to convey it, okay? Don't have that vote yet. I think we need to do a much deeper dig in the public eye in order to save it for Nampa. It needs to be saved, not given away. You don't give away your house, a $400,000 or $500,000 house, because you need a new boiler or AC or a roof. You don't give that away. You have all that money. These people invested all that money, and you want to give it away. That's all I have to say. Thank you for the extra time.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Madam Mayor, our next speaker is Kelly Chapman.
What am I saying? 116 Marvin. Well, it's in Caldwell, but anyway. I'm one of the writers of the VRT on demand, and if you got rid of it, I'd be like really devastated. I'm talking about the VRT, the 150, and the 42. Although I think the 42 would still run, but it just wouldn't go through Nampa. I don't know how that would work, but anyway, was that my time limit? Okay, anyway, also, if you got a commuter train, you could get a bus stop at the Ford Idaho Center, which would also save the parking issue, because then people would be riding the train to the event instead of parking there, so then you wouldn't have to fix the parking lot. I thought I'd throw that one in there. There's a lot of fun places to go in Nampa. I mean, we got Walmart, we've got the Nampa Rec Center, which I think they've got, what are they calling that one now? Howard Rec? I don't know what they're calling it now, but they're calling it something else. But that was another fun spot. There's a lot of people that ride it besides me, and to lose it would just make me really sad.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you, Patty.
Unless there's something else I need to say.
No, thank you for your comments. Council, do you have any questions?
Kelly, do you normally just ride here locally in Canyon County, or do you ever go into Meridian or Boise on the
I go to
bus?
Boise all the time.
Thank you.
I mean, I think I go there at least 3 times a week. I mean, on a busy week.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No, but thank you so much for taking
Just save
time.
everything.
Well, thank you for
I'm thinking the
taking time.
churches should do free repairs on the Nampa, what's that place called, the Fort Idaho Center? Maybe we could get the churches to do some free repairs there. Other than that, I don't know.
Kelly, thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Kelly.
you very much.
Is that it?
Thank you. That's it. Thank you so much. Thank you. Is that it? Okay. So that is it for our public forum time this evening. We are ready to step into public hearings. Council, how about if we do one more real quickly, which is Shars? So we're going to do yours, and then we're going to take a break. This public hearing is 8.1 on the agenda. It's an action item, and it's a public hearing to consider establishing a new fee for providing passport photo services.
Madam Mayor, Shar Tim, City Clerk, are you okay with me being up here?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I feel a little uncomfortable because I'm asking for a new fee. So, but this is actually regarding passport photos. And I'm just going to do a very high-level summary because everything was in the packet, but this is just for the audience to kind of understand why we are here and why the city clerk is asking to establish a new fee for providing passport photo services.
Do you have a presentation for any PowerPoint?
I do not. I
No?
do
Okay.
have one slide that is
Okay.
more of a comparison.
Okay.
And that's why I wanted to be very brief, but thank you. So the city clerk's office is actually a high-volume passport acceptance facility, and we execute over 4,000 new passport applications every year. And we also provide courtesy reviews for over 600 renewal passport applications. The staff of the city clerk's office is a passport acceptance agent, and we are responsible for ensuring all materials are needed to process a passport application. One of the most critical things is regarding the photos. We are responsible to ensure that the photo is an accurate likeness and it has been taken within 6 months. We are required to examine it for the applicant's identity and to ensure that the photo meets strict requirements. What has been happening is many times we have to reject the passport photos that are being taken at other places as they don't meet those requirements, and those people have to go and ask for a retake. This process is causing frustration and delays, especially when there's school-aged children. In recent months, there has been an increase in the public requesting passport photos be done at City Hall to provide that convenience and allow assurance that the photos meet the requirements. The established fee for the passport photos would offset the cost for the equipment and the supplies that would be on ongoing basis. My objective is to provide a convenience and to provide efficiency for applicants wishing to go to one place for both their passport photo and the submission of their passport application. It is not my intent at all to compete with nearby businesses. I did a comparison photo. I do want to, not sharing. It will be. Okay, there we go. There we go. I do want to acknowledge that there was one small mistake in the staff memo that I submitted. I had thought there was only 2 passport acceptance facilities in Treasure Valley that provide passport photos. But when we were grabbing this information and doing research, we did a 50-mile radius and found 7. Most of them are in Boise. The closest one is the City of Star. They all charge $15 except for the City of Star, which charges $25. They started that passport photo service about 2.5 years ago and has always been at $25. I do want to show that the local retail businesses that offer passport photos, Staples at $17.99, Walmart at $16.99, and Walgreens at $16.99. When I was considering what price that we should do for the fee, I decided to go with $25 because one, City of Star was at $25, but also, excuse me, I had a conversation with the Kuna Library District. When they started this service, they decided to go exactly what Walgreens was doing, which was $15 at the time. Since then, Walgreens increased their price. Kuna Library District chose not to, and so now they are in competition with Walgreens, and that is something I really wanted to avoid. But I would defer to council if you wanted a different fee.
Is that
that's all I have? Okay.
What are you currently charging?
We are not providing that service yet.
Oh,
That's
okay.
why there's a new fee.
All right, thank you.
So one of the principles that we have had within the city is that we do not compete with local business. And so it isn't, that's the reasoning for having a fee. It's strictly a convenience fee. If someone didn't have their passport photo, wanted to have it done here, that we would do that for them, but we don't want to compete with the private sector for their revenue on these. So that's why the fee is set at 25. The reason this is in a public hearing this evening is because it is a new fee. We're required to do a public hearing if there's a new fee being proposed. It is a new service. So it isn't that we're increasing a fee. It's a brand new service that we've never provided. And so that hence new fee. So with that, this is a public hearing. This is a public hearing, so Councilman Griffin, can we come back and do public hearing and then come back with questions, or does council have questions real quickly?
I think the question that I have is something that very well could be brought up by a citizen in their testimony, and it might avoid having 3 minutes go out the door. Unless I take that long as well. Thank you. Shar, regarding the necessary FTEs to satisfy the amount of passports coming through, will the $25 mark be able to support self-sustaining clerks in the clerk's office? Does it need to be more? Does it need to be less? Does it hit it right on the mark? Can you speak to actual employment and needs within the office to not pull away from other tasks but still be diligent in getting this done?
Well, I'm thinking, that would you also speak to the fact that you're already processing passports? So thank you.
Right, Madam Mayor, Councilmember Griffin. So we have already been doing passports, and again, we are considered a high volume passport facility, and that is actually coming from the U.S. State Department when they did their audit with us last year. So we regularly process 4,000 to 5,000 passports every year. We are only allowed to charge $35 per passport, and that's a brand new one. We are not allowed to charge anything for renewal passports, so we do a courtesy review. Just with that alone, we will typically have a revenue of about close to $200,000 every single year. So this is just another, basically a convenience. We are responding to what the public is requesting, and that is the passport photos. I am not going to be seeking any more staff. I have enough staff, and we actually have been increasing our passport appointments to make it a little bit easier for people to come in. We also allow walk-ins, which most facilities will not do. So again, this is just another convenience.
Are there any further questions?
Thank you.
Okay. So go ahead. This is a public hearing.
And Madam Mayor, there is no one signed up for this item.
Is there anyone here that had intended to testify regarding our passport photo fees? If you would like to, come forward, and it's the same name, address again in 3 minutes.
Can't remember me?
Well, we just have to do it. Sorry. For the record.
My name is Patty Evans. I live at 3616 East Rolling Green Place, and I needed a passport last month. And I went to one of the retailers that was listed up above and waited around with some other people, and it was kind of like silly. I had to shop around in the store for them to process the photo. When I came, I didn't know I needed an appointment, and I needed this quickly because I needed it to get back. And I kind of dropped the F-bomb on the clerks because they couldn't do it because I didn't have an appointment and I was too late in the day. But they were very efficient. They went over my paperwork and told me what I should go and look for at home, which I was able to find, remember. And I came back the next day during my appointment time, and they were very good and efficient. And I think that if they had the photo processing available to them, they would be like the place to go. And I think that would be a very good thing. Thank you. And sorry about the F-bomb.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that had intended to testify this evening? Thank you for sharing your name and address.
Yeah, Rick Huggable, 1924 West Honeydew Drive, Nampa, Idaho. I just want to commend your clerk on bringing forward this idea. At the Recorder's Office at Canyon County, we are not able to offer this mostly because of space capacity. And so I can just affirm kind of her feedback that there are many people who come and have to then go get their photo. I do support the pricing. It's not intended to be price gouging. You're not undercutting the private sector. So if a citizen wants to go to one of those locations and pay less and then make the additional trip here, but it's really a convenience fee and you're not mandating that you must use the city. So I think it will generate revenue. But more importantly, as you state, it's intended to provide an option for convenience to the citizens. So I wish we could offer it at Canyon County. We're looking at potential options, but it's really a space capacity. So it sounds like you have a space that you can dedicate to making sure that these photos can be taken. That's a wonderful opportunity that you have to serve the citizen. So
Thank you. It's just a space
Yep.
on the wall, literally. Did you see it out there?
yes,
Yeah,
we
it's just,
our recorder's
don't
office
give him
does
any
not-
ideas,
yes,
okay.
Yeah, we don't have space capacity at Canyon County, but yeah, I think Nampa will continue to serve well. And thank you for doing. We do direct people here because Canyon County in most places, as she said, is only appointment only. So I know a citizen was in a bind. Sometimes we have citizens in a bind. We say, go to Nampa. There's no telling when they'll get to see you, but you are one of the few places, and that is very much appreciated throughout the county because there are citizens who sometimes underestimate what the turnaround time is on a passport, and we're booked out 2-3 weeks in advance. I don't know what your bookings out are, but sometimes people are in a bind and they come here, and that's an incredible service to the citizen. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, is there anyone else that had intended to testify?
Mayor,
Seeing
I
none.
move that we close the public hearing.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, any closing remarks? Staff, do you have any?
I do not, but I do see Councilmember Griffin posed a question on the chat is when is the effective date for photos to be available? After we are done with the public hearing, and if the resolution passes, it would be effective immediately upon passing.
Okay, thank you. So what is the will of council?
Mayor, I'll authorize the mayor to sign resolution establishing the fee for passport photos and establishing effective date.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to authorize the mayor to sign the resolution. Is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Bills?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Everfield?
Yes.
Griffin?
Yes.
Ingula?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. So we are going to take a break, and so for those that want to go, you can. For those others, we'll try to be fast because I know we have some public hearings before us. So we will take a few-minute break.
Oh, just ordinances.
Okay, thank you. City Council, we're going to get started. Hello. Huh? No, I have coffee. I Okay, so I think we're going to get started. Okay, guys, I think we're ready to get started. Okay, so we're missing 2 council members. I think we lost them somewhere. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So we are ready to start with action item 8.2. This is actually 8.2 and 8.3. 8.2 is an action item. It is our FY26 foregone property tax public hearing. And then 8.3 is our fiscal year 2026 budget hearing. It is my understanding that we can put them together for the public hearing, and there will be separate action items for each one, but we are going to combine them into one hearing. And so Doug was a little bit disappointed because so many people left. They were all here for the passport photo one, I'm sure, right? Yeah, that's good, Shar.
And you give separate action items at the end.
Go through the foregone and then see if there's any questions from council. Then go through the budget, see if there's any questions, and then we're going to open up for public hearing. People can speak on either one, and then we'll close. Thank you.
Mayor and council, thank you for letting me present the foregone resolution and the budget resolution to you for the fiscal 2026 year. I was hoping that more people would stay because the topics that are on the last week's agenda tonight about the Fort Idaho Center are so centrally entwined with everything we do budgetarily that it would have been nice to have more people stay and listen to the challenges we face overall and understand it's difficult to make any single decision in a vacuum without impacting something else. If you choose not to fund one thing or fund something, you're choosing to fund or not fund something else. And I hope we can get more public presentation or support, more public involvement as we go forward. I would love to sit down and answer questions anybody has on this. Anyway, let's go back to this budget hearing for the foregone. For this year, included in the budget is $468,023 for a 1% foregone increase. That value, and I'll go through that in more detail of the total tax impact in the budget, but that allows us to hire 3 additional police officers with just a little bit left over, like about 30,000 left over. That brings the total of police officers in the budget for next year up to 6, with 2 office staff dispatchers. And that is a separate resolution. I will come back to the impact on the taxes in just a moment, and the total, so you can combine the foregone with the new construction and the impacts from last year's foregone. Let me go down really quickly. I want to start here on, this is page, I believe, 6 or 7. I'll go through this is, oh, actually page 3. This is page 3 of my executive summary. So the budget for fiscal year '26 is $310,079,409. That is a $2.7 million or 0.9% increase over the prior year. The increase are driven by the following changes: labor, benefits, and that includes new FTEs, increased healthcare costs, PERSI costs, all the labor benefits increased $7.1 million. Operational costs increased only $2.6 million. Debt service, $2.1 million, that's related to the wastewater treatment plant. Capital decreased by $4.3 million, and transfers and allocations decreased by $4.8 to get to that $2.7. So I wanted to start that, and then I want to go read through very quickly a couple of things. The budget summary also includes a capital budget of $118.1 million. That's decreased $4.3 million from prior year. A lot of that is due to a decrease in how much we used on the impact fees. And I want to state for the council that impact fees are budgeted as used, not as received. So as we collect impact fees, they go into the budget, we collect them, we put them into the bank account. When we use them, we budget for them. So this year, while the impact fees keep collecting, we actually have a decrease in how they're going to be spent in this 1 year. And most of the capital decrease is because of the impact fees. The city had 28.01 new FTEs. We've talked about this, $2.78 million of new FTEs. 12 of those are in general gov, and 8 of those positions in general gov are for the police. The remaining FTEs are water, wastewater, and streets. The budget includes an average 3% market and merit pay of about $1.9 million, with those making $44 an hour or less getting 3.25%, and those making more getting 3%. It includes increased PERSI cost of $0.3 million, increased health care cost of $1.4 million, and the health care is going to be the big issue going forward. How do we fund that? Next year, I think we have to make some changes in how we do this, and it will be probably cost increases across the board. That is unless everybody gets suddenly healthy and we have lower claims next year. Total operations, $2.7 million increased. A lot of that increase is related to the wastewater treatment plant. New supplies, new electric cost, repair and maintenance cost. That's helping drive much of that increase. About $1.1 million of the 2.7 is related just to the wastewater treatment plant. Now, I wanted to spend a moment down here and talk about the impact of the taxes collected in this year. The new construction was $872,000 and annexation was $20,000. Last year, those numbers totaled $1.804 million. The difference this year is that new construction was heavily weighted inside the urban renewal district. The actual amount of new construction going on in the city increased over the prior year, but almost all that increase went to the urban renewal. If this trend takes place next year, it's going to be a very challenging budget. Now, for clarity, the foregone taken in '25 was of 2 flavors, 1% for operations that stayed with the city and 3% for capital. That 3% capital in '25 backs out in '26, and so the amount levied goes down to the citizens by that value. So the tax increase, including the foregone, that will, in fact, it doesn't really impact the levies. If you look, the total 3% taken was $1,336,000, and the total foregone reduction, the recapture from last year is $1,322,000, and that's the increase or net thereof. So this year, the residents really don't get an increase in the taxes because we're backing down the foregone from last year, so it levels out. Even when the total tax collected is the increase in the budget is $1.49 million. That's barely 100,000 more than the 3% taken. The amount measured to the average homeowner would be in the pennies. So a very, very net neutral budget for the public. Shared sales taxes, the first time in a long time, it went up slightly, 569,000, but it's important to note that the collections are ahead of prior year at the state level, but the state is collecting less than they budgeted. So I'm very cautious on this line. So we budgeted at 97.5% in 26 of what we will expect to receive this current year in case it does go down. We won't have a painful landing there. Other increases tonight, we'll have water. This budget includes 4.9% increase in water, a 3.5% in sanitation, and a 4.9% increase in the irrigation. Now, you may come back in another public hearing and hear an increased amount for the presentation, but what's in the budget are those 4.9%. So very briefly, I want to go down and just recap this one more time so you know the breakout of the budgets. The property tax, I want to look at this second section, which is the total sources of funds. $46.7 million of total property taxes collected. $24 million of intergovernmental, that's shared sales tax, that's road and bridge tax, highway taxes. Service revenue, $108 million, primarily fees for water, wastewater irrigation. License permits and fees of $8.5. Grants and donations is $25 million. The other financing of $6.8, that's 99% interest income, and that will start to go down next year. And then finally, transfers and allocations and fund balance of $75 million to get to the $310 million budget. If we look at that very quickly by the funding source on the way they're budgeted by type, the general government total budget is $70 million. Enterprise funds are $133 million. Enterprise being water, wastewater, irrigation, streets, so forth. Special revenue funds, $78 million. Capital and impact, $24, and internal service of $4.3 million. And the final number I wanted to share very quickly, the budget by category. Personnel services, we are a personnel-intensive occupation here, $83.3 million of personnel costs. Operations, $77.5 million. Capital, $118, and debt service of $8.6, and then transfers allocations of $22.6. That forms up the $22.1 million budget, and I stand for any questions or for additional clarification as requested by council.
Mayor?
Yes, Councilman Griffin.
I don't know if you have this calculation, Doug, and really I just am looking at the levy override numbers, and I know I cannot because I know we have to factor in growth as an offset. What do you believe the total amount of property tax increase or net zero we'll be seeing this year after this approval of this budget? With foregone attached.
For the public, the net increase is practically zero because we're backing off the 1.3 million of capital from last year. So the increase this year to the public is literally, given that the new construction is nearly $900,000, and that is not an increase, that's tax on new properties. And the foregone is 468, and that compares to the 3% of 1.3. The increase to the citizens is about $150,000, which is literally pennies over the year. Pennies. Won't even get up to $1. That's the increase they will see this year from the city.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council, do you have any other questions? So Doug, just for clarity, was that your full presentation for both foregone and budget?
Yeah, the foregone is in there, 468,023. That's the total
Just
total
very
presentation,
simple
yeah.
that you hit at the beginning, so that's the
Right.
full presentation. Council, do you have any questions before we go into public hearing? Okay, Councilman Rodriguez.
Oh, sorry. I do, Mayor. Would you please tell me again, from the 468,023, what is going to where?
It's about $135,000 for each additional officer in year one. So you've got 260, 390, 390 to $400,000. We have about 60,000 left. Council approved a couple of other small changes in wages and benefits for the mayor was an increase we added back in, mayoral pay. There was a couple of other small increases we added in, and that, but it's 90% directly to the police.
Okay,
And
so,
if you factor in one-time cost, it's over 400,000.
and so what would be the total amount per 100,000 to each resident?
Well, as I indicated, if you look at the 1% as an isolated item, that's about $2.81. However, in this year, because of the reversal of last year's foregone, it will be literally pennies on the dollar. Maybe as much as 80 cents is their increase from the city's budget. So while you do have an increase in the foregone, because the foregone from last year is coming off, the net budget increases very little compared to the 3%.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor?
Councilman Bills and then Councilman Griffin.
So just a quick generalized question, to not take foregone would mean we're not funding the 3 police positions and some miscellaneous.
Let me answer that this way. Keep in mind, we still have unresolved budgetary issues related to the West Valley Humane Society, related to the Canyon Canyon Prosecutorial Services and our own legal in-house. If we didn't have the 1% foregone, we would be cannibalizing budgets when we eventually resolve those, because I think there will be, even if we stand up facilities ourselves, there'll be one-time costs we're going to have to absorb. And we've got a couple of buckets of money to use for one-time costs. But if I didn't have the foregone and we tried to deal with the other issues on our own, we would be probably cannibalizing other budgets to get there, to resolve these eventually. Because even though the budget doesn't include the entirety of what the West Valley is asking for, I don't think we've gotten to the point where we've resolved the negotiations, and it's going to be a challenge going forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Griffin?
I just, looking for confirmation, I remember last year, one of the points of strain for me was that if we did not take foregone, we would see a property tax decrease because of the ending and the paying off of our bond early. If we didn't take foregone this year, would it have been the case, potentially, that we would have seen actually a decrease, factoring in that I know last year it ended or was paid off early. Because we took foregone, it delayed the effects of paying off that loan early. Could we have seen that this year if we voted no?
Well, all we did in '25, when we took the 3%, was we delayed the timing when the public would receive that reduction in payroll tax rates. They received that in '26 budget by the $1.3 million decrease. The $468,000 of foregone added this year, I have a hard time saying I can't address the tax saving without addressing the internal consequences of not having it. We are struggling to meet the financial needs of the city. We're not underwater. Like I said, the sky is not falling, but I'm looking forward every year, and every year we get so much closer to that cliff. And my job is to stay away from that cliff, to keep us away from that, or at least provide you as counselors with the correct information to guide us away from that cliff. If we don't take the foregone this year, we don't take the foregone next year and the year after, we're going to get to that cliff much more quickly. It's just the way it's going. Growth is happening. The Highway 16 project, the Purdom Drain, growth is coming. Whether you as council decide to try to shut it down, I don't know that it's possible, given the demand and the challenges we have. That's for council to address, but if we do not do our best to control the budget and meet the needs at the same time, how do you put this? I'm kind of in a little bit of, a lot of heartburn going on because of the conversations today. Because I hear the public saying we don't want to increase taxes, and I get that. I hear the public saying they've got a great love for the Fort Idaho Center. From my perspective, I cannot, those are two mutually exclusive items. I cannot make them both work together. If we keep the Fort Idaho Center and have to pay for the deferred maintenance at whatever level it is, that's money I don't have for police and I don't have for other areas. It's just a matter of that fact. You can find some ways to make maybe a little less impactful. Maybe there's a few things we can do better. There's always going to be a good idea to help. But those good ideas probably account for maybe 5 to 10% of the challenges we're dealing with. So if you want to say no to foregone and you want to say no good forever, let's start planning now for the eventual budgetary impacts that are going to be coming. If next year I don't have urban renewal, because that goes in there, we're only at $900,000, we're not going to have a very good budget season. And there might be some degree of, you may be forced into saying, I know we would like to hire new people, we literally can't. And that's where we're headed. And I'm not trying to lay panic down because we can make our way through it. I can make any budget work for a year. You tell me what you want to do, I can make it work. Year 2 is a problem, but I can do anything for 1 year. But what I'm hoping to do by giving you all the information and the long-term view is to see the cliff a long time before we get there so we can make decisions now that help us steer clear. That's the whole plan.
I do want to say to Doug, you've done an absolutely excellent job of trying to give us a preview of what we have coming with our budget. You've been extremely conservative in trying to ensure that we have operational dollars to give us, facing the day that we know is coming. And so this is probably the hardest thing for the public to understand, is that we have the internal discussions around where do we see, from a budget forecasting and revenue forecasting, where do we see us going?
Yeah.
What we've been talking about internally is we're seeing us go into a difficult place. We had a couple great buildings come online. They were in urban renewal district. We've got another one coming along online, urban renewal district. Those funds won't come into our budget until 2032. I thought it was 2031, but it's actually 2032. So it's a little bit problematic because, one, our levy has gone so low that the property tax revenue is not coming in the same, and then we have them going into the urban renewal district. So you combine that with House Bill 389 and 673, all of that together is the perfect storm, which leads us to where we are today going, oh, good grief. It is a reminder because, and Councilman Griffin, you're absolutely correct in your assessment that we had a debt, a loan that we paid off, then we did foregone plus, we did 3% plus 1, which was $1.6 million off of a $2 million, to where it allowed the taxes not to go up with that. This year, because that 3% just rolls off, it was one-time use, and some have suggested we don't ever do that again, because we need it for ongoing operational, adding that 1%. When we have $5.8 million that's not in our budget that would be, but because of those bills, so that's $5.8 million. And as we all know, what the legislature did is it caused us to put the burden off of new growth onto our existing citizens.
Exactly where it's going.
Absolutely what we should not be doing.
Unintended
Shouldn't be.
consequences. They wanted to save the homeowners. They actually did the reverse of pushing it back onto the homeowners.
Onto the homeowners.
Because the new construction is not paying for it.
Very unfortunate. That said, the good news is for this year, if we do a 3% plus 1% foregone, there is virtually no, according to my understanding, and Doug, what you're saying, no property tax increase, very minimal, very, very minimal.
Because it's most
Less than $1.
Most of it's new construction. And that's not a tax increase. That's new construction dollars on new taxes on new construction. So,
okay. So hopefully that's all clear. Are there other questions?
Just one more clarification, Mayor. So you have left over from the 468 and 3 officers is about 405,000. 60,000 would go to, I just want to clarify, 60,000 would be divided up to West Valley Humane Society
Well,
and
25,000 went to, the mayor's salary
Mayor's
increase for the next mayor is up 25,000, so there's probably 25,000 right there.
25,000 there.
Plus, we did the salary increases for the council,
Yes.
and so
we
I don't
did-
know what the total is
And
there.
we did 9,000 for the percentage of people above 2.75 to 3%, that was $9,000. You add those on, they're just 3 or 4 small items that used up that remaining 60,000.
oh, I see, so already taken care of.
Oh, we
It's
used,
already-
yeah.
It's already
This-
done, spent.
No, there's nothing left. And this will be the challenge as we go forward, so the council understands this. We built into and the police association knows this, we built into the police budget the same wage increase that the city got. So we're entering negotiations now, we'll see where that goes. Anything they ask more is going to have to come from somewhere. I don't have a magic bucket of money. My preference, and I'm not going to go into that now, we'll come back to that later, but there will be challenges if the council decides to approve more than I had budgeted for them, because I don't have a bucket.
Thank you, Doug.
Any other questions?
Mayor?
Yes.
In regard to West Valley Humane Society, and I know we had talked about this, the recent letter that they had sent, where does that put us budgetarily with them not renewing with Caldwell and potentially not extending with us? Where does that put us budgetarily?
Well, we approved in our preliminary workshop a budget of $483,000. And we have met as municipalities in the county to discuss where we are. Right now, we're staying with where we are. They wanted $720,000. I think council made that decision. I fully support it. The fact that we increased our budget by $400,000 in 1 year is massive. And we're still working on how we're going to move forward in collaboration and meetings with them. So we're having ongoing discussions. But we're not increasing our budget beyond where we are.
Future question.
Yes?
Has Caldwell met with, or have there been any discussions of what their plans are regarding that with their non-renewal letter coming through from the Humane Society and their plans, and are we discussing partnership agreements with them? Where are we at there?
Well, again, it's the same answer. We have met with them. We have ongoing discussions taking place, but we've already met with them, and only Caldwell can speak to Caldwell. But we have had a meeting with them, and we will have a future meeting with them in the coming weeks. So we're in the process of discussing what our move forward is, but it's yet to be determined.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. If there are no further questions, we'll move into the public hearing.
Madam Mayor, and just to clarify, this is both for item 8.2 and 8.3?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So we have one person signed up to speak, and that is Elaine Clegg.
Thank you. Well, gosh, it's great to be here tonight. Thank you all. I'm Elaine Clegg. My work address is 700 Northeast 2nd Street in Meridian, and I'm here not just on behalf of Valley Regional Transit, but all of your constituents who ride our services. I want to express my deep appreciation for your spirit of partnership and all of the work that you've been willing to do with us over the last year together to find a path forward. It really means a lot to us. You know me well enough to know that I'll probably improv even though I have these prepared remarks, so we'll see here. Last month you voted to maintain full funding for VRT. That vote to me was more than a budget decision. It was a clear recognition of the essential role that transit plays with your constituents and your community, and your recognition of that. And that means so much to these people's lives. it seems to me that it also reflects a community conversation that's grown bigger and stronger and more united over this past year. We've had a lot of conversations with you, with your constituents, online surveys, the dedicated Transit Day, one-on-one conversations with many of you, and at bus stops with many of your constituents. And the message we heard was clear. From all of you, this is a hard year. We want to work this out, but just know our budget's hard. We recognize that. From your constituents, we heard things like, without on-demand, I'd go broke. Transit gives me my independence back. If ERT is eliminated, I may not be able to exist. And from one healthcare provider, we heard, if service is eliminated, it will be doomsday for us. You heard that. Thank you. Many of your community partners also chimed in. St. Luke's, St. Alphonsus, Terry Riley, College of Western Idaho, Whitco, Senior Center, Boise Rescue Mission, and each of them saying the same thing. Transportation isn't a luxury, it's a critical infrastructure. And you listened, thank you. We understand your vote last month to put us in the budget was not easy. Your general fund is stretched thin. I heard even more about that tonight. One of the reasons I love coming to these meetings is having served on that side of the dais for so long, it brings back lots of memories about how hard it is to be this public servant that you all are, about how critical the decisions are that you make every day, and reminds me how much I appreciate it and appreciate you for continuing to serve. So we know that everything is stretched thin, and that means even more that you were able to go ahead and move us into your budget. We also have a limited budget. We know you know that. We try really hard to run good inter-county and on-demand services. We know it's not enough. Councilmember Griffin, I think it was you who said, there's not a bus stop close enough to my house that I can get there easily, so it's really hard to use. That's true. We'd love to have a day when Councilmember Griffin can walk out his door and get on a bus, and look forward to working with you to get there. The sustained investment is really hard. We talked about that last month, but it's also really, really critical to being able to move forward instead of one step forward, 3 steps back. And so again, thank you so much. It means that stable, secure funding that we've all been looking for is a step closer instead of a step farther away. So, thanks for listening. Thanks for preserving the service. Thank you for helping build a more resilient, better connected transit future, not just for Nampa, but for this whole region, because Nampa is such an integral part of the middle of this region. It let your readers breathe a sigh of relief last month when you made your vote, but it did more than that. I've heard since how many of them are hopeful for that better future where we can build better transit. And so we look forward to doing that with you this next year. And thank you again, urge you to pass this budget as it is. Thanks a bunch.
Thank you so much. Council, do you have any questions? Thank you. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, we do not have anyone else signed up for this.
Is there anyone else this evening that had intended to testify on our budget? Seeing no one, I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Council, do you have any further questions or need for discussion? Any questions for Doug? Okay, so we are going to do this in 2 motions. The first motion will be regarding the foregone property tax. And Doug, do you have an actual motion? I'm sorry, it's the resolution, thank you. Okay.
Madam Mayor, I move that we pass the foregone, FY26 foregone property tax and have you sign the resolution.
Second.
So the motion, I can read it for you. The motion is to authorize the mayor to sign a resolution declaring intent to recover the city's foregone property tax balance in the amount of $468,023 for fiscal year FY26 for general maintenance and operations. Actually, it isn't for general maintenance and operations.
Operations.
I would say it's for operations, yeah. So we're going to get rid of that word, general maintenance. It's for operations. Okay, so that is the action item. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Mayor Kling, can you define, I was going to ask that, because it does say for the purpose of fund general maintenance and operations, you're saying you're going to strike the general maintenance
Yes,
aspect of it?
yes, because it's,
Operations being only for police
It's
ongoing?
all operations. There is no general maintenance in that.
correct. It's all operations. It's for as Doug explained earlier, the police positions. In addition to that, we did wage increases for council, for mayor, and then there was an adjustment on the 3% which was another, I think, $9,000.
Right.
Right. So it's all operations budget is what that's for, and we are striking general maintenance. Further discussion?
I kind of do, but don't. I'm just going to say that I don't know that we can put a dollar amount on the safety of our community. And I think I need to understand that there's, for example, 153 police officers in uniform. Short of that, there's 30 or so that are in specialized units. That only leaves between 8 and 9 per shift out of 130,000. And if you realize you take from West Nampa to East Nampa, it takes you, about, 30 minutes? That's unheard of. But when you have in dire need of patrol for our community, that's, wow. I think that kind of paints an ugly picture. Yes, that's what I say, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Bills.
Yes.
Everfield.
I voted no on foregone when we were going through the budget process. I voted no for the increases as far as for salaries for city council. I've never voted for foregone or city council increases in 12 years. Struggle with this a little bit because I do believe that we need to fund the police properly, but if we weren't tying in the budget or the increases for city council, I'd vote yes, but I'm going to vote no.
Griffin.
I'll make a similar comment. I'm grateful that police is getting funded, that we found room in our budget, whether it be through foregone or not. I voted no on council salary increases, and for that reason, I'll be voting no on foregone for that case as well.
Angula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
4 in favor, 2 opposed, motion carries.
So the action item for 8.3 is going to be the first reading of ordinance adopting the fiscal year 2026. This is if there is a motion to approve it, then we will read the ordinance, but we first need a motion if we approve the budget.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
does this pass under suspension of rules, or?
Actually, let's just start with a motion to approve the budget, and then we'll move over to the ordinance.
I make a motion that we pass the FY26 budget as presented.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Angula.
Yes.
Everfield.
Yes.
Griffin.
No.
Bills.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
5 in favor, 1 opposed, motion carries.
So now we will have the first reading of ordinance adopting the fiscal year FY 2026 budget, and it is requested to pass under suspension of rules.
An ordinance appropriating funds for a 12-month period from the first day of October 2025 to and inclusive of the 30th day of September 2026 to defray the expenses and liabilities of the city of Nampa for said fiscal year, specifying the object and purposes for which said appropriations is made, authorizing a levy of a sufficient tax upon the taxable property, providing for a repeal of conflicting ordinances, directing the city clerk to file certified copies of this ordinance with the county commissioners and Idaho Secretary of State, and providing an effective date, referencing sources and uses of funds and appropriating monies, specifying a process for expenditure of funds, and establishing an effective date.
Madam Mayor, I move this pass under suspension of rules.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Pingula.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Griffin.
Griffin?
No, sorry, I couldn't hit the button. No.
Bills.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
5 in favor, 1 opposed, motion carries.
That concludes our public hearings for 8.2 and 8.3. Thank you, Doug. Appreciate it. We are going to move to 8.4. 8.4, the open public hearing has been asked that we continue it to date certain of September 15. And I believe we need a motion. Is that correct? Okay, I would ask for a motion to do so.
Make a motion to postpone item 8.4 to date certain September 15th
And with an open public hearing, correct?
with an
Yes.
open public hearing.
Okay,
Second.
it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Pingula.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Griffin.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Bills.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
8.5 is an action item. This is annexation and zoning of a total of 6 acres for approximately 1.98098 acres into community business, 4.65 acres into RS4 single-family residential, and 0.25 acres into light industrial, and a potential development agreement for a development referred to as Brentwood Village at 7799 Ustick Road. This is for Brent Orton. He was representing Warren Ragel. Did I get it right? I did it right. Okay. Whew. They coached me, and I was trying not to still mess it up. So the original concept is annexation and zoning to provide for a future subdivision that includes 0.25 acres of light industrial zone property to house an existing cell tower, and then 1.9 acres, 09 acres of BC zoning along the frontage of Ustick Road, and then 4.65 acres of RS4 zoning to create 24 single-family lots and maintain access easement for the cell tower. So thank you for being here tonight, and go ahead and introduce yourselves. Good evening.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, City Council. Thank you so much for hearing us tonight. With your permission, Mayor, we'd like to tag team the applicant presentation.
That's great. And so Brent, go ahead and give name and address and for both of you.
I'm Brent Orton with Orton Engineering, 17338 Sunnydale Place in Caldwell.
Thank you.
And I'm Warren Ragel at 7799 Ustick Road.
It's
And-
actually your name. Trying not to
Yeah.
mess it up, Ward. It's
Yeah,
nice to meet you.
Silent H.
Yes.
Okay. So I'll be brief, just 2 minutes here. So my wife and I have resided at this property for the last 5.5 years, and we've seen the growth coming. We knew that change was here, or change was coming, and it was inevitable. So we, for the last 3 years, have been thinking about, what do we do with our property? Because it's not a lot of people looking for a 6-acre farm home sandwiched in between 2 large developments, because to the west of us is Jackson's that's coming in, and then to the east of us is Corey Barton subdivision that has already been approved, Trestle Creek. So we have the challenge to decide what we do with our property, and this is what we have come up with over years of thought. And hopefully tonight I can breathe a breath of fresh air into this meeting and show you some of the things that we've been working on that I think will be tasteful for the community, and just good overall plan. So, when you think about, I had the clicker here. So it's, the existing property, like I said, is 6 acres. It's Canyon County agriculture. and it's currently an open pasture that we use for cattle. And there's a cell tower that's on the property that we don't benefit from. The previous owners had cashed out on that deal, and so now we just have to honor the easement on that property. So as we thought about what could go here as a transition between the commercial property and the residential, some of the things that come to my mind as a good transition would be, apartments, multifamily, that type of thing. But I come from a landscape architecture background. I like to do things that are aesthetically pleasing, and I think I've been watching some developments in the area, and this is one over, it's called Riverstone in Eagle. Right as you go up north on 16 and you cross over the Boise River, you look down to your right and you'll see some man-made lakes. And in that subdivision are these, what I call quads. And there's 4 single-family homes that share a common driveway that the garages kind of go into a center courtyard focal point. And right here, there's about 100 of these properties here, and they sold very quickly. They're all sold over there. These are brand new. And this is kind of a bird's eye view, but they're very tasteful as far as they're very nice homes, and they average anywhere from 438 to 6 1/4. So you can see kind of the front of this one and the inside. There's nice homes as far as square footage. They're around 2,000 square foot. So what I'm going to do is turn the time over to Brent. And by the way, we used to live in a subdivision called Brentwood back in Kansas City. So we're not naming it after our engineer. This is something that it's kind of nostalgic for us. So I'll turn it over to Brent, and you can walk him through all the project here.
And thank you so much for sharing that, because in my head, I was asking the question, where did the name come from? Uh-huh.
There's nothing more embarrassing than having a project named after you. Mayor and council, thank you so much for the opportunity to present. Also want to just compliment, many of you know I worked for Caldwell for 19 years, and always kind of keeping an eye on how's the customer service in each community, and your staff's doing a great job. They've been wonderful to work with. We really appreciate them, and so well done. Just to quickly cover, I think staff will do a staff report, yes, Christy? And they'll cover several things. I'm going to go quickly just to hit high points. And I'll leave this to the staff to illustrate to the council, but we'll just breeze over it quickly. You're aware of what the request is, and here's a quick look at what we're proposing is how this quad concept fits on this property. At this point, we are not proposing a preliminary plat, but we wanted to just see what we intend to do, and we're happy to be committed to that in our development agreement. We just wanted to have a plan before we went forward with that. We're backed up to the Purdom drain. We're appropriate with the comprehensive plan. These are the surrounding uses. I think they'll also be covered in the staff report. Just some of the benefits. I really like the transition. Warren's landscape architecture background really becomes apparent in this. We're just engineers, we're not that artistic. But I love his concept for transitioning between ordinary, conventional single-family residential and commercial with a product that will have nice homes, single-family residences, and also be probably close and good users. Because of your decision-making with the Jacksons, you created a landscape buffer there that will make this a nice transition, enough space for these folks to feel like they have a comfortable, good residential dwelling place, but also easy access to this commercial development nearby. So that, I think, will couple nicely. These lots are smaller, obviously, and that helps a little bit with the value density question of new growth. When you have a higher value density is really that's why industrial and commercial are the big winners for us as cities, is because, of course, there's a higher value density, and this will accomplish that in some measure. We'll be bringing forth a preliminary plat before too long. I'll just, because we've got to keep rocking here.
And if you need a few extra minutes, I'll give you a few extra minutes.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate that. This is what the floor plans look like. While we were inspired by Riverstone, we did not steal their designs. The Radgels have commissioned design of, this is their own modeling and creation, and Warren, with his expertise in this area, he's audited all these plans and modified things so this is just some renderings of the type of homes that would be proposed there. Here is one thing where we need potentially some help. We've worked with the staff, and when the Jackson's project was approved, their development agreement includes this provision to require cross-access to the property to the east, which is this project. We understand why this has occurred, and I just want to speak to a couple things. One is there is enough space on that use-stick frontage for both properties to have access. However, under the standards, we also appreciate, though, that your team, your staff team, is looking out for what are things going to be like at the intersection of U-Stick and Franklin in the future, and wanting to steer clear of problems that could occur, and therefore had asked for the Jackson's access to be placed further away. That does compound to the impact that we can no longer have an access that meets that standard if theirs is set that far away from the intersection. What we would ask for at this point is that we have a strong preference to be able to have an access there at this location where where our road is shown, where we also have an easement obligation there with the fiber backbone that feeds the cell tower runs through that easement. We're also, of course, concerned that people be able to see where the access is and that they're driving into the development. So there's some concern on our part for if that cross-access ended up being, selected by Jackson's in an undesirable location. And I know the staff will work to help us with that, but that could really cause a problem and kind of places our destiny concerning that access in the hands of a neighbor. And certainly not a criticism for Jackson's. It could be any neighbor, right? And so what we would ask is that the council would authorize a condition of approval that would let us have an access point where we prefer it here. If there is a problem, either getting that cross-access thing sorted out, or if they propose it in a difficult to use and very undesirable location, we would ask for the council's consideration for a condition to make something that would really work. We'd love to have it right on that driveway. If that could work, that'd be amazing. If that can't work, then to be able to have it probably right up front so people can see when they come into that driveway that the way into the development it's right up at the front, basically parallel to U-Stick or something like that. And I do believe that's what the staff intended with helping to construct the conditions of approval for that case. But we're in need of your help on that. And one other little quick thing, and that is, I don't think this becomes a problem, but there is a condition of approval that was proposed that I think might have been unintended. We would generate about 250 trips per day or 25 peak hour trips, which falls under the threshold for traffic studies by quite a bit. It's a quarter of that threshold. We're not bringing forth a preliminary plat now, so that would usually accompany a preliminary plat anyway, but we would just ask for consideration to not have that, just to have that held against the project if by some means it came forward with in a way that met the thresholds for the traffic study under the engineering policy manual. So with that, thank you so much for the extra time, Madam Mayor, and I'd be happy to answer any questions the council may have.
I have a quick question, if council doesn't mind, and that is, I'm not sure that I understand the access point. So the original home, that property, has a driveway.
It has a driveway, and then it also has access to U-Stick for the, there's a cell tower.
Oh, go ahead and come up. Go ahead and stand up and, yeah, I'm sorry, you have to use the mic.
There's already two access points to the property. One is a driveway to the residence, and then just to the west of there is easement access for the cell tower. And that's where the fiber backbone that he was talking about is underneath that road, that easement. And so that access point is right on the property, basically our west property line. That would match up to Jackson's property line. So what our ask is that we would be able to maintain that access point
Are you wanting to maintain your home access point or the easement access point?
So the home access point would stay in place until it converts to a business, right?
Okay, and which
once-
one is that? Is there, oh,
That
I
would be-
see. So you're pointing to it right now.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
that's the existing driveway.
That's your existing driveway, so that would stay in place.
Mm-hmm.
And then as this gets developed out, I see that there's another access point that you're looking at.
And that is currently an access point today for the easement.
And you're
It's
wanting
like
to maintain that access point. That's what you're asking for. Is that correct? I just wanted to make sure I understood it because I wasn't
Yeah,
fully
no,
sure.
correct.
So you want to maintain this access point that we see at the very bottom where her cursor is right now. Okay.
Yeah, that's the ask.
Thank you.
Just to put the language into the development agreement.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So Mayor,
Yes.
follow up to the same question. So when the improvements go in for the drive access for the subdivision, would the commercial property then have access off of that same drive and eliminate your current drive access?
Yes, the thought is either we could share that for the subdivision as well as the commercial, or maintain that and have the Jackson's access further down, because there's 800 feet between my property line and the corner of Ustick and Franklin. So I'm not well versed on how far that access point needs to be away from each other. But I know that the business that's right next to me that's been annexed into the city had one access point when it was county, and now it has two. So I'm not clear on where the limitations are on access points. But the goal would be to maintain that access point on the west boundary and share it with commercial if need be.
And the west boundary is the bottom of this, is that
Correct.
correct? That is west.
That's correct.
And east is Jackson's, which is the top of this.
Nope.
No,
West,
Jackson's is west.
West.
So it's further down from here. So when staff does their report, you guys can help us understand. Okay.
There's a map here that shows, I guess what I'm trying to see is that at some point, your current driveway to the residence is going to,
once it converts to a business, that would go away.
that goes away. Because that's going to help this whole
Right.
access issue. Second question is, are you dedicating right-of-way for Ustick in front of your property?
Yes, because I believe, 50 feet center right away. So, because that's currently 2 lanes and it will be 4 lanes. So yeah, we would have to dedicate right away. Is that the question? Yeah.
Wanting to make sure that that issue's been taken care of.
Yes, I believe that's a condition of annexation is to dedicate that right.
That is correct.
Sorry.
Are there other questions? at
Mayor.
this time? Yes.
Would you be able to speak to the fire engine turnaround, how that's configured? I don't see it as far as the T-turn, or there's obviously not a cul-de-sac. It exceeds 150 feet. So how are you solving that?
Yeah, right there. On the quads.
And Ron Johnson is here. Ron, would you like to speak to that?
Mayor, Councilmember Haverfield, if I'm understanding correctly, they're tying to Ustick Road and they don't need a turnaround because then they're going out to the neighboring subdivision down here at this other T, is that correct? So,
I didn't see.
although I didn't either till just now, so.
There is a subdivision that's developed
Yeah.
with a road system that you'll be able to pick into? Okay. That's where it was unclear as far as our maps weren't showing that.
Madam Mayor, Councilman Haverfield, I'm sorry about that. I failed to mention that. And that, we're proposing a private road because of the space constraints, but that is a public street that we connect into there. And it's also that's a future location that will host sewer main between subdivisions there.
Mayor, I was going to say too, I'm an architect, so I've been involved with quad projects like this before with internal garage doors. So it's really nice because you're not seeing garage doors fronting the street. You can see porches and different things, and So I like the concept. The fact that you're not connecting the buildings as townhouses too, so how far off the property lines will the buildings be?
We're basically pushing right up against the city setbacks for this zone. So we're 15 feet to the front of the building, which if the garages were out front, that would be 20 feet. But because it's to
Internal.
living space, it's 15
Right.
feet. And I believe we're the same at the back, 15 feet at the back. 15 on the back.
So had you considered a townhouse approach with zero lot lines?
We did consider it. We thought that this product would be more desirable to the city, so this is.
Well, if you go over to Bishop Kelly off of Allenbaugh, that's where our development was, 55 and older, and it's all quad approach, but it's zero lot lines with internal garages like that. Turned out really nice.
Okay.
Are there any other questions?
Mayor?
Yeah.
Brent, how do they decide who gets to shovel the sidewalk or the driveway? I'm just joking. It's a bad joke.
It will be Warren.
More paper, scissors.
Okay. I don't know that we have any other questions, but as you know, you will be back after the public hearing, so we'll have you come back and we'll move to the staff report. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is Christy Watkins. I'm the Principal Planner for the City of Nampa. As stated, the project before you this evening is for annexation and zoning to BC RS4 and IL at 7799 Ustick Road. This is considered to be kind of an infill project. It's not necessarily an enclaved piece of property, but the size and the shape and the fact that there's already a cell tower and an irrigation ditch and it's so long and thin really does kind of put it into that category of an infill project. The property is located in the area of impact, and it is adjacent to the city limits, where it borders property that is zoned RS6, RS7, BC, and IL. City emergency services are available to this property, and utilities will be extended to and through. The property is located in an area designated as community mixed use on the future land use map in the comprehensive plan, but intends to stretch the residential mixed use designation from the south. The proposed zoning are all permitted within that designation of residential mixed use. The schedule of uses 1032 do allow for single-family detached residential dwellings in the RS zone, and uses that may come in the BC zone will be evaluated on a building permit basis. And the IL zone is intended to maintain that cell tower. So engineering had some requirements for this project. When it says that a TIS will be required for this project, I believe that means that Daniel will evaluate that once he sees the plat, since there was not a plat with this proposal, then he will have that be a requirement with the preliminary plat, and you can discuss that with him. I will have him come up here and talk to you about the access, about the right-of-way dedication, and about that traffic impact study. So these are the zones that are being requested: 1.098 acres to BC, 4.65 acres to RS4, and 0.252 acres to IL. Potentially 24 lots for residential, 1 lot for commercial, and then, of course, the cell tower for industrial. The correspondence that was received was from the building department, their standard comments about following building code, engineering listed traffic impacts and frontage improvement requirements, and their conditions of approval. The police recommends a commitment to fund 0.08 additional officers and 0.04 additional support staff. And Fire District had comments on the water supply and fire access. There are 4 findings that you will need to find for annexation. 1, all private landowners have consented to this annexation. 2, the property is contiguous to the city limits where it abuts RS6, RS7, BC, and IL zone properties. The Nampa Comprehensive Plan includes this area of annexation in their impact area. And when applicable, for annexation of roadways, all portions of the highway line partially or wholly to be annexed to the contiguous parcel have an express agreement with the Highway Maintenance District or will be taken over by the city for maintenance. For zoning, to determine the zoning and whether or not it's appropriate, there's 3 findings that you will need to find. The proposed map amendment is in harmony with the comprehensive plan map. The proposed map amendment does provide uses or set of uses that would be at least reasonably compatible with existing adjoining property uses or future uses in this case. The proposed zoning map amendment is in the interest of the public and reasonably necessary because it will bring utilities to and through down Ustick Road, and it will bring needed services to the city. These are the recommended conditions of approval. I think you probably need to discuss number 7 with Daniel. And these are the potential motions. I'll stand for any questions.
Christie, I have a question. We didn't really talk about open space. And can we go back and talk about that? Meeting the 15% open space requirement and what they're planning on doing? Forgot to ask about that earlier. And how much ground there actually is in those little green spots.
So, Mayor, because we do not have a preliminary plat, these are all just high-level numbers. And so I don't know that they have really evaluated what they're going to do with it necessarily, but they have designed it into the project.
Okay,
to
so
meet
they
code.
do meet the 15% open space requirement. There's a couple green spaces. So the furthest one at the bottom, is that considered open space?
Yes.
And is that part of a roadway?
No, so.
No, the road turns ahead of it.
Yeah, so the
Okay.
asphalt is gray, and the
So-
open space area is green.
The open space is next to the cell tower.
There is some next to the cell tower, and then there's some also just to the north of that where
Bookending.
it turns.
Correct. There's, on each end, there's open space, and then there's some down by the cell tower.
Yep. So there's some at the north side and there's some at the south side so that they can access both.
When you guys come back after the public hearing, I might have you come back and speak to actually how big that, it's so hard to tell perspective, and if it's actually usable space that you could do something in it. Okay, thank you. Council, do you have questions for Christie?
So Christie, yes, Mayor, thanks. I just want to confirm that residential is showing the improvements of a roadway, but then that roadway doesn't appear to be showing improved on out to Houston.
Can you repeat that?
Can we go back a slide?
Daniel stole my slides from me.
I mean, when the subdivision goes in, the road's going to be complete to Houston and then to the sub, correct?
I will turn that over to Daniel.
Get back to that. So that is just a function of the zoning colors, so the BC area that overlaps that roadway. So the roadway, as they've proposed it, would continue out to Ustick. Our condition with Jackson's is that they provide cross-access to this parcel with the intent, and that's, let me go back and, before I unchair and go to the Jackson's exhibit, any other questions on this?
No, I'm just seeing dashed lines, no gray, so I'm just trying to see that the access is going to be in place at the time the rest of the plat's
The
done.
access would be in place up to Ustick, whether at this location or at the other. Let me go back and share. So this is the concept plan for the Jackson's property. There on the left hand of the screen is where the actual Jackson store would sit, and then they have plans for some other commercial in the remainder of the property. So as part of their annexation conditions, we required that they provide cross-access to this property that is under consideration tonight, with the idea being that they either work with this neighbor and move that access that they have shown to the property line there, or that they provide a drive aisle along the frontage of that property to the east to get into this property. Brent has had some conversations with Jackson's, and those are ongoing, and we've offered for the city to sit down with both parties to discuss that access management and how that might look.
Okay, my concern is that subdivision's going to connect to another subdivision. There's going to be folks who want to come, and some are going to want to get to Ustick, some will go to Jackson's or the other commercial. And it seems like it's going to lend itself to having an access to Ustick and this open access to the residential as well as Jackson. That somebody coming up the residential traveling north, they're going to get close to Ustick, but they're going to look towards jumping into the drive aisle or the drive access going east-west from Jackson's to get to Jackson.
And to be honest, from a access management standpoint, if somebody were to do that, that keeps them off of Ustick or Franklin, and so from a connectivity standpoint, that's not necessarily a bad thing for the city. It keeps vehicle trips off of the roadway. One of the other conditions that is in place on the Jacksons is that they have walkable connections to the neighborhoods that come in adjacent to them, so that they're, people just, kids going over there or whatever, that there is good pedestrian access and bicycle access through there to the convenience store and that. But then as well, the cross-access for a vehicular standpoint, that's not necessarily a detriment to the city. That's actually something that's desirable from an access management and connectivity standpoint.
I can see it can be good if it's moving from the residential to the commercial. My concern is commercial traffic is going to use the residential as a main cut. So that, I'm just putting it out there, so as dialogue goes on, engineering goes on, is to keep in mind people's, having dealt with it in years past, the connectivity to commercials is attractive for the residential to get there. It's the commercial, using the commercial to then cut through a subdivision to avoid an intersection. And so that's why I'm raising it.
Right, and so for the Jackson site, some of the conditions on the Franklin access will limit their access there to help discourage any of that kind of cut-through traffic there. That's something, we haven't received building permits or anything for final reviews. These are just concept, but those are all things we will evaluate as we do those reviews.
Daniel, will you be requiring the sidewalk with that cross-access?
So the frontage, when they do their frontage, they will be required to do sidewalk, both Jackson's and this development, if approved, will do sidewalks on Ustick. The exact internal pedestrian routing on this commercial property and how that connects, that review will happen with, likely with design review as it comes in for that area. They will look at that pedestrian access between the properties.
Okay. That's just part of the review process, correct? You guys will address that?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, are there other questions for Daniel? Okay.
And the traffic impact study, Brent is correct. If that condition is really just there, that if they go over that threshold, which it's unlikely that they will do, that they will be required to do a traffic impact study. If they are under that, which is likely, we will not require that when the preliminary plat comes in.
But the concept plan that was there on the screen shows that there was potentially going to be commercial buildings on this property where now it's proposed to be residential. And that
So,
parking lot coming up to those.
so what I just took off the screen, that was all on the property that Jackson's owns. So this property would actually be to the east of that.
Okay,
And
so those three buildings shown is
Would-
actually on Jackson's property.
Is on Jackson's property. This
Excellent.
would have,
Okay.
this would be to the east of that.
Okay, thank you.
Can I have one more question? Did we put in the development agreement with Jackson's to provide fencing?
I don't recall
What's
if that
and what's
was-
the setback with Jackson's? Because they're going to be setting up, not Jackson's in the corner, but that next piece that actually abuts this to the east, this property to the west, the Jackson's property to the west. What is the setback or landscaping requirement for Jackson's that they're not sitting right on the back door of this property?
Mayor, so Jackson's, of course, will be out closer to the corner.
Correct,
and
but I'm
these will be
talking
the
about-
commercial pads on the inside.
Correct.
Yeah, so we do have written into code a residential, when you're abutting a residential zoned property, you have to have a 10-foot setback and/or a 6 to 8 foot fence.
Only a 10-foot setback?
For the drive aisle.
I didn't see a drive aisle behind those buildings, though.
Yeah, but that's not the final plan for where those buildings are going to be located. That was just a
There's only a
concept.
10-foot setback required on those buildings?
Mhm.
That's unfortunate, because that's less than there is in a residential, and it's commercial.
Yeah, our
We might want to
commercial
look at
code.
that, because to have a 10-foot setback on commercial next to residential seems way too light.
And just typically, they want to do deliveries in the back of their buildings, and so they usually will have a 10-foot setback plus a 24, 26-foot drive aisle for deliveries before they get to the building.
Okay.
So there's still a lot of distance. Usually they'll put back doors and loading areas behind the building.
Keep in mind that it can be a street and then residential.
A street and then, okay, because there will also be trash cans and trash deliveries, that sort of thing. So that's just all something to consider. As long as there is a street there that separates, then that works.
Okay.
You just don't want a building and trash can sitting right up next to residential. But there would have to be a road, so thank you. Okay, I don't have any other questions. Does anybody else have any other questions? Thank you. Okay, so I think at this point, we'll have you come back after public hearing, which could be just in 1 minute.
Madam Mayor, there is no one that did advance sign up for this item.
Is there anyone here that had intended to testify? Hi, would you like to come forward and share your name and address?
My name is Dave Orton. I live at forget my own address. That's hilarious. Help me out here, Robin. 3706 South Twin Springs Way here in Nampa. I've lived in Nampa for 14 years. I work with Brent. I am his brother. And I wanted to, on this property, we've had an experience with the city of Nampa. And actually, we've had a lot of experience with a lot of municipalities. And I just would like to give you an understanding from my perspective what it's like to work with the city of Nampa, and it's a 5-star experience. Christy Watkins has taken care of us every step of the way from the time we had our first meeting with her. She's given us very detailed code and backed up comments on all the issues that we had. It's just been fantastic to work with Rodney Ashby. Even when the news is not good, he responds quickly, and even though it's not what I wanted to hear, he's like, this is what the code is, this is what we need to do, and he's very professional. So thank you for that, Rodney. And Daniel Badger, up until tonight, I've only communicated with him in email. I got to meet him this evening and shake his hand, which was great. I just want to tell you that other municipalities who shall remain nameless for the benefit of them, they don't hold a candle to Nampa, and it, as a Nampa resident, it really brings me pleasure to work with such fantastic people, teams, processes, and code. Thank you very much. I did want to say regarding the property, I wanted to acknowledge you, Mayor, for pronouncing the name correctly. I pronounced it incorrectly for a a long time, and I've known Nancy since before she married Warren. So kudos to
It's
you.
only because Christy coached me. She was on it.
See,
Yeah.
even more
Uh-huh.
praise to Christy. Amazing, Christy. Brentwood, the name, I actually, when they sent that email saying, yes, we would like to call it Brentwood, I wasn't sure they were joking. I actually sent an email back saying, I can't tell if you're joking or not on this. They're like, nope, not joking, okay. And yeah, the last thing I wanted to note was that this has really been a fantastic experience of getting this to you, and just a reminder that all of the preliminary, you have an opportunity to go over all of the issues and requirements from engineering with the preliminary plat process when that does occur. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the kind words towards our staff.
They totally earned it.
Well, I appreciate that. And you know what? I know that to be true, and it doesn't surprise me at all because I know they really strive to do exactly what you shared. But thank you for coming forward and sharing that. Because
Pleasure.
with all the negatives, isn't it nice to get a positive? Yeah. Good job, guys. Thank you. Okay, so hang on okay, well, it's your turn, I'm sorry. I'm trying to get my notes straight here, so Brent, come on up.
Sorry about that. Big Nancy there. Thank you, Mayor. We were able to look up some of those, to answer some of those questions. And so the open common lot area is 1.03 acres, which amounts to 17.28% of the total area. And then the common lot for the private roadway is 1.13 acres. And I just to qualify, that may also include the right-of-way dedication along the U-Stick frontage, but that comes to 18.96%. So, and then to answer the question about what might go in that open area, we have the city regional pathway that runs along the drain. And so we'll have a connection there, and some of our notions are that we could do some features that would be enjoyable for people to use as they pass by on the drain pathway there. And then beyond that, we're still working on it. So, and then, Madam Mayor and Councilman Bills, I think your point is well taken about, commercial traffic maybe, or cut-through traffic maybe wanting to get to commercial through this. While that can't be avoided entirely, there is a requirement in NAMPA code that we'll need to comply with to have 2 traffic calming devices along this stretch of roadway, given its length. And our notion is to put crosswalks there, actually, so that people could cross over and walk right into the Jackson's commercial. One last thing, I do believe if our review of the Jackson's project conditions of approval is correct, I think that the council did actually increase the buffer there, and so it's 20 feet, if we understand correctly. And so it's going to work out great, we feel like, because to your point, Councilman Bills, we'll have our roadway, and then we'll have that buffer, and then we were happy with the open nature of it so that these citizens, these residents can walk straight on over through these traffic calming devices with crosswalks and walk straight over into and patronize the businesses in the Jackson's development.
Thank you.
And I'll just add that, so that Brent is correct. There is a 20-foot landscape buffer to the east of the Jackson's property as well as to the south. And that little stretch of green down at the bottom of your screen by the cell tower, the thought was is to design some type of like a stretching station, because there is a pathway right there along that drainage gulch. And then to the west of the property, on the back side, I guess it would be the south side of the Jackson's commercial property, there is 8 acres there that will eventually be developed, probably townhomes or residential. That I've spoken to the owner of that property and talked to him about the stretching station, and that they could even make that a little bit bigger when they decide to develop. So it has function, is the goal there. Okay?
That is great.
Yeah.
I'll follow your design concept.
Okay. Thank you.
Council, do you have any questions? Okay. Thank you so much. Do you have any closing comments? Are you good?
No, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
Moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Mayor,
Pardon me, I just wanted to make sure you were aware that we did confirm that on the Jackson property, they have a 20-foot landscape buffer on that side.
Thank you. Okay, what is the will of council?
Mayor,
Yes.
I move to make a motion to approve the annexation and zoning for a total of the 6 acres with approximately 1.098 acres into BC, 4.650 acres into RS4, and .252 acres into IL for the development referred to as Brentwood Village, as stated on the screen.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded.
Mayor?
Yes.
Can we have them add removal of condition number 7?
And removal of condition number 7.
Okay. So it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Field.
Yes.
Griffin.
Just for a quick comment, to maintain consistency, I still feel that, well, and I want to give the shout out to the Brentwood team. In my opinion, this is a great design for this location. It's a fantastic layout. The timing is not good for the city. I don't believe that we have proper mechanisms in funding it, so I'll be voting no.
Bills.
Yes.
Gula.
Yes.
5 in favor, 1 opposed, motion carries.
As we finish, I just want to say, I love what you did. A great concept. I think it's going to be nice, and those are difficult to design, right? When you've got a long, narrow property. I think you guys did a great job. Thank you. Where is Brentwood in Kansas City? It's in Liberty. Okay, there you go. Thank you so much. Thank you. Good job, guys. So we have one more public hearing this evening. This is 8-6. It is an action item. It is a development agreement modification to revise certain conditions of approval in instrument 200707676 for the home base multi-tenant buildings in a Gateway GV1 Gateway Business Zoning District. This is 3.43 acres, addressed as 4865 East Franklin Road for Victor Farrell, BRS Architects representing Tony O'Neill, Echo Companies. The original concept is to revise certain conditions in the existing development agreement to allow for more flexibility in the parking layout by removing standards outlined in the conditions of approval, items 5G and 5H, and removing requirements for plantings near the building in item 10A. Is our applicant here this evening? Thank you. Come on forward. Give us your name and address, and thank you for sharing with us your concept.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Victor Farrell. I'm project manager with BRS Architects. Address is 1010 South Alante Place, Suite 100, Boise, Idaho, 83709, and is shared in the shared in the introduction to the project. I'm joined here today by Mr. Tony O'Neill, property owner and also a general contractor for this development. I'll be brief in my remarks. We were here June 2nd. At that time, you approved a variance at this location. And I'll leave it to Rodney to show the pretty pictures and site plan. We're here today to request the approval of the development agreement modification for the property located at 4865 East Franklin Road, future home of 2 new multi-tenant flex buildings. This development was previously approved through the design review process in December of 2024. Subsequently, we submitted a variance application to reduce the required front setback along East Franklin Road from 35 to 20. This request was due to the widening of Franklin Road, which significantly reduced the available area for landscaping, parking, and building footprint. That variance was approved June 2nd, 2025. As I mentioned last time I was here. During that review, it came to our attention that the original development agreement from November 2007 included language that restricted the proposed site layout. And as part of that variance approval, we were granted that conditional approval, allowing the project to proceed if we met one of 2 conditions. We pursued condition 2, which is how we are here today, where we've requested to change the development agreement so that our site plan is complies with that. As shared, they request a development agreement modification, revise certain outdated conditions to align with the current approved site plan, specifically removing condition 5G and 5H, which limit parking layout options, and amend condition 10A to eliminate unnecessary planting requirements directly adjacent to the buildings. That development agreement was approved by Planning and Zoning on July 15th. With these updates, the site plan fully complies with the City of Nampa Code of Ordinances. And I believe that's how we got here today. Again, just trying to be brief in my summary and overview of how we got here. We appreciate your time and attention to this. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions at this time? Okay, we'll have you back at the end, just like we just did. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Rodney Ashby, Planning and Zoning Director. He's done a really good job just describing what's happened. I think it's probably safe to say that during the variance request, it was given direction to them to come back with the development agreement. So this should be very familiar to you. Really no surprises that I have to share. So I'll just go through this pretty quickly. If you have specific questions or want me to pause or slow down on any of these slides, let me know. The Planning and Zoning recommended, the Commission recommended approval. It matches the comp plan and the zoning in place. There's the site, an aerial view of the site. Here's the history. There was a development agreement in place. They came in 2012, amended the ordinance to adjust land uses. And then in June 2nd, 2025, we had the request for the variance, which was permitted. And then you gave them direction to come back with a development agreement modification. Development agreements, you've seen these before. They're generally just agreements between the city and the applicant or the property owner. And you can adjust those. And code outlines some safeguards for if they don't comply. Then what happens? What is the process for addressing the deficiencies in the agreement? The agreement also outlines some of those safeguards. Next is the code that gives you the authority to modify the agreement. And here are the three essential things. Parking is adjusted. It used to be 80%, in the development agreement it says 80% of the parking needs to be on the sides, no more than, I think it was 35%. I think I've got the language here. 35% of parking spaces allowed in the front of the building, and then a minimum of 20% to the back. They also outlined numbers of spaces. They outlined the need for landscaping right in front of the building, abutting the building. There's quite a bit of landscaping required as part of the parking and the setbacks, and then already, so that is what their request is, to eliminate that requirement. And then there's a pedestrian amenity that was required through the parking lot that doesn't appear to be necessary. And so those are all the conditions. Here's the site plan. You can see that there's quite a bit of landscaping being proposed out in front still, and end caps on the parking right in front of the buildings. So that is pretty much it. I went pretty fast. Happy to answer any questions, but that is it. And then here are the couple motions for your consideration.
Thank you, Rodney. Council, do you have any questions for Rodney? Thank you. Seeing none, this is a public hearing.
Madam Mayor, no one did advance sign up for this item.
Thank you. Is there anyone here that had intended to testify this evening? Seeing none, this would be an opportunity for our applicant. Do you have any closing remarks or anything you'd like to share? Nope. Council, do you have any questions for the applicant? Seeing none, I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. What is the will of council?
Mayor, I'd make a motion to approve the development agreement modification as presented by staff for DAMO 65-2025.
Again.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Griffin.
Yes.
Ingula. Bills.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for your work. Appreciate your development, and I'm sorry you had to wait till the very ending for a very short meeting, but good news. Yes, thank you so much. Okay, we're ready to move to unfinished business. I believe we have two unfinished items, reading of ordinances. 9-1 is the first reading of ordinance for vacation of approximately 37 feet by 10 feet utility easement located on the southwest corner of 6 North Bora Way and the southeast corner of 610 Lone Star Road in an RS6 single-family residential zoning district on a .33 acre parcel at 6 North Bora Way. This is for Gary Inspick and as well as Jamie Juries for the vacation easement, and it is requested to pass under suspension of rules.
In order to the City of Napa, Canyon County, Idaho, vacating a portion of an easement located on the property generally described as the southwest corner of 6 North Bora Way, parcel number R0823994000, on the southeast corner of 610 Lone Star Road, Napa, Idaho, parcel number R0823993900, located in the southwest fourth of Section 21, Township 3 North, Range 2 West, Boise Meridian. Said vacation being a 444 square foot portion of a utility easement on both subject properties, more particularly described below in Napa Canyon County, Idaho, and directing the city engineer to alter the use and area map and other applicable maps accordingly, providing for an effective date, providing for severability, and repealing all ordinances, resolutions, orders, and parts thereof in conflict herewith.
Madam Mayor, I move this pass under suspension of rules.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Jingula.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Griffin.
Yes.
Bills.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
9-2 is an action item. It's the first reading of ordinance for a zoning map amendment to RD two-family residential from RD two-family residential to RS6 single-family residential zoning district for a .26 parcel at 1423 South Elder Street for Ms. Herrera. And it is requested to pass under suspension of rules.
An ordinance of the City of Napa, Idaho, determining that certain lands commonly known as 1423 South Elder Street, parcel number R11798, located in the northeast one-fourth of Section 34, Township 3 North, Range 2 West, Boise Meridian, totaling .26 acres more or less, is currently zoned RD two-family residential in the limits of the City of Napa, Canyon County, State of Idaho, and that said land should be rezoned RS6 single-family residential zoning district on .26 acres more or less, declaring said lands by proper legal description as described below to be a part of the City of Napa, determining that said rezoning is in the best interest of the public and consistent with the comprehensive plan, directing the city engineer and the planning and zoning director to add said property to the official zoning maps of the City of Napa, and to designate said property as RS6 single-family residential on the official zoning map and other area maps of the city, providing for conditions of approval, providing for recordation, providing for severability, providing an effective date, repealing all ordinances, resolutions, orders, or parts thereof in conflict herewith, and directing the city clerk to file a certified copy of the ordinance and map of the area to be rezoned with Canyon County, State of Idaho, and the Idaho State Tax Commission pursuant to Idaho Code Section 63-215.
Madam Mayor, I move this pass under suspension of rules.
Second.
Excuse me, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Bills.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Griffin.
Yes.
Ingula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
The last item on our agenda is an executive session, and I would stand for a motion to adjourn into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 742061C to acquire an interest in real property not owned by a public agency.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Bills.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Griffin.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Ingula.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.